that path can absolutely be earned by the activity that every single one of us, like the millions of people who have surfaced over the last few weeks, have done. We cannot be spectators. We must be agents. I'll close here with the first call to action. Don't wait for the end of this call. Don't wait for the end of my remarks. Join the many already in formation. Sign up for a volunteer shift right now. And when you're done, donate. And with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, my friend, I like to affectionately call her E-Dubs, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Maurice. And thank you to the Working Families Party for bringing us all together. It is so good to be here with you. This is just beyond fabulous. The energy and the momentum in this election is on our side. And I am so inspired by the organizing in support of Vice President Harris, starting with the win with Black women that mobilized a massive Zoom call. And now here tonight, we have progressives coming together. So I'm so happy to be with you. You know, I have known Kamala Harris for nearly 15 years. After the financial crisis, I was setting up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, go CFPB, and she was Attorney General of California. We worked shoulder to shoulder to push back against the big banks that had cheated people, and now we're trying to take away their homes. And what was clear then and what is clear now, Kamala Harris fights for working families. And she is the fighter we need, someone who knows how to fight and someone who knows how to win. As Vice President, Kamala Harris has led the charge to protect access to abortion. She is the first Vice President in history to visit an abortion clinic. She's helped make sure that our veterans and our active duty military can access full reproductive health care services. And I just want to say this to everybody on this call: give us the skinniest possible majority in the House and in the Senate, and President Kamala Harris will make Roe versus Wade law of the land. This election is about our families and our future, just like Maurice said, and we have some amazing opportunities. J.D. Vance thinks normal people don't need childcare. This is our chance to make affordable, high-quality childcare available everywhere in America, and our chance to pay childcare workers commensurate with their training and responsibilities. Kamala fights for childcare, so I fight for Kamala. This election is our chance to build millions of housing units, housing for first-time buyers, housing for renters, housing for seniors, housing for people with disabilities, housing for people with no housing, and housing for middle-class families. It is time for the federal government to step up and offer the help that is needed to build 3 million more housing units here in America. Kamala fights for housing, so I fight for Kamala. And this election is our chance to pass the PRO Act so that every worker can join a union and can force employers to come to the bargaining table. People want to join unions, and we can make that a lot easier. Kamala fights for workers, so I fight for Kamala. And just one last note. Trump and J.D. Vance are promising more tax cuts for the mega millionaires and billionaires. This election is our chance to tax the rich and make the wealthy pay their fair share. Kamala fights for a fairer tax system, so I fight for Kamala. This is our chance to do something incredible. We can make this country work better, not just for a handful at the top, but we can make it work better for everyone. It is an honor to be in this fight with all of you. So let's get this done. Let's help elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. Oh, this is going to be fun.
Thank you so much, Senator Warren. And yes, we could both organize and have fun at the same time. I agree. And next up is my friend and sister, Rana Epting from Move On.
Thank you, Maurice, and always good to hear from Senator Warren. I am so honored to be here with all of you this evening. And thanks to the organizers who brought us here together, and every single one of you that are on the Zoom call. You're spending your evening on a Zoom. I know that we're trying to get away from that, but it's just been incredible the last, 10 plus days that have transpired. And I'm just happy to be here in community to honor, to celebrate, and to commit to doing the work that we're all going to do to make sure we win this November. Because we know that winning elections doesn't just happen. It happens because of people like us who show up, we volunteer, we spend our times, we talk to our friends and family, we do the work to ensure that we win the elections that matter to us. And maybe you can relate, but I am having a hard time effectively putting into words how excited I am about this election cycle and all that it's become. We're living in a moment. The beautiful shows of solidarity, as Senator Warren spoke about, starting with the Win with Black Women call, but so many folks are throwing down to give to our Democratic nominee, Vice President Harris, and to ensure that we win in November. And it's just a joyous, beautiful thing to witness and a beautiful thing to be a part of. And so I just come here with a lot of heart and love for everyone here in this moment that we're in. And it's quite understandable. It's understandable how folks are feeling so much more energy and so much more motivation in this moment. With Kamala Harris as our nominee, we have a leader sticking up for us, who's sticking up for us against the right-wing bullies that we've been having to deal with for years and years now. She's pushing back on their extremist agenda. She's going on the offense. We have a leader who is skilled, competent, experienced, and vibrant. She's out there on the campaign trail doing how many events a day? We have a leader that represents the best of America, a melting pot of cultures and identities that represents the beautiful diversity that this country is, that makes us strong, that makes us a beacon of hope for so many across the globe. And we have a leader who is doing all of this and leading with a clarity of vision and a commitment to build on the progress we've made, not just over the last few years, but over the last generation. She's a nominee that is going to be incredible in office. She's going to help us expand healthcare, invest in the care economy, combat and prepare for the climate crisis. She's going to ensure the ultra wealthy pay their fair share. She's going to protect our rights to make choices about our bodies and protect and strengthen our democracy so that it works for all of us, and so much more. And her nomination, her candidacy has undeniably created a tectonic shift in energy, momentum that is building, and vibes. You guys, this is the vibes election we've been wanting. But, throughout it all, let's not mistake ourselves. This election has not been and never will be about the choice between two different people. It's not just about choosing between Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Really, what this election is about is a choice between two very, very different futures for this country, for our people, for our families, for our children, and two very different possibilities or opportunities about what is possible under a Trump presidency or a Harris presidency. A future with Donald Trump in the White House, I don't need to tell you. But, Project 2025, rolling back of our rights, resistance, defending. Trump 1.0 was awful enough. He's even more unhinged now. The very sanctity of democracy and elections itself is under threat. That is one future that could transpire. But a future under Kamala Harris in the White House is a future where we have a playing field to organize on, a foundation of democracy where we can debate our ideas and push to build on the progress we've made. It's a future where we will have an opportunity, not a guarantee, but an opportunity to drive a progressive vision for the country. And I think that's the future we want, right? So there's a lot of work to be done. We have less than 100 days to ensure that we win in November. And it's not just about the White House, it's about the House, the Senate, and all down ballot elections. It's super important, but we can do it. We have defied the odds before so many election cycles. In 2018, in 2020, and in 2022, there was no red wave. And in fact, we won in so many elections, and we will do it again this year, and we'll do it supporting Harris. So please, please give to her campaign. Please sign up and volunteer with organizations like Move On. Plug into our election program. We're doing work all across the country at scale. We make it super fun for everybody to get involved, to talk to voters, to talk to the key voters we need to win, to help Harris win the 270 electoral college votes she needs to clinch the White House win. So we're not going back, folks. We're not going to go back to attacks on our freedoms. We're not going to go back to attacks on our democracy and our rights. We're not going to go back to the racism, the sexism, the homophobia. We're not going back to the targeting of our communities. We are going forward, and we're going to go forward together, because that is what we do as progressives. We come together and we are constructive, and we help ensure we win, and we continue to push for progress. So thank you so much for joining the call, and please give to the campaign, but also sign up with organizations like Move On and others on this call who are doing the work to ensure that we deliver the votes for November.
Thank you, friend. Thank you so very much. And I'm checking with the organizers to make sure that I know who's coming up. Organizers, are we clear about who's coming up? I'll give you a few minutes just to make sure. But in the meantime, I want to remind everybody who can hear me, all of you in the viewing audience, please, please, please make sure to volunteer. Sign up for volunteerships right now. Sign up for volunteerships. Remember to donate. Remember that we're building a bigger we. This is a broad, united front, right? We understand what our North Star is. Our North Star is to defeat U.S. fascism, and it's taken the form of MAGA. We know what their plan is, Project 2025. We know who their candidate is, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And we're coming together. We're made up of different factions, different movements coming together in order to defeat them and create the opening for us to build a progressive future. And with that, I'd like to introduce a friend of mine, a sister of mine, one of the most powerful and strategic labor leaders in this country. I'm talking about no other than the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, my sister, Stacey Davis Gates.
Hey there, Maurice. Thank you for that very generous introduction. Listen, you all, in Chicago, 10 years ago, we launched a strategy here that won us a mayor that we call Brother Mayor, a mayor who was a middle school teacher, a mayor who was a union organizer. Our project was not just built for an electoral win. In fact, our project was built to create the ecosystem that we need in order to foment the candidates that believe in the common good and believe in affordable housing. So what I want you to do today as organizers, not just as voters, because any election worth winning is an election that you create the values and the stakes for. So what we need to do in this moment is be clear about what the stakes are. The stakes are the possibility of power versus the possibilities of fascism. A second Donald Trump presidency will wash away all of the gains that we've made here in Chicago and over time in this country. As organizers, our work is multidimensional, and we have to always chew gum and walk at the same time. So number one, we have to beat back this Project 2025 that will eliminate the Department of Education and destroy unions. We have to crush the anti-democratic forces anchoring the MAGA movement, a movement that reinforces sexism and white supremacy, the disunity that we feel so sharply in our country right now. And we have to elect Vice President Harris as President of the United States of America. And we have to do that in order to create the ecosystem that gives us Medicare for all, that cancels student loan debt, that makes housing affordable, that creates the agency and autonomy that we deserve over our bodies. Our ecosystem has to require us to organize so we play offense, not defense. Our work is to organize. Our work is to clarify the stakes. And our work is to make sure that we crush Donald Trump and his MAGA forces to create the real society for the many. Our work is now. You sign up to knock doors, make phone calls at your labor union. You invest in the community coalitions that you work in now, and you get people to understand it's not what we have now, it's what we give our grandchildren later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my sister, and thank you for all the work that you're doing, building our movement in Chicago. Next, I want to share just a little framing before we bring some of the wonderful organizers we have to bring. Because one of the differences between MAGA and our movement is that we've committed ourselves to democracy. They've committed themselves to one man. We are building a bigger we, a we with many stories, with many issues. Some of us disagree on very important things. This movement is an exemplar that we can hold disagreement, we could hold debate, we could hold protest, because that is what democracy is. That is what democracy looks like. We're not interested in top-down rigid agreement. Uncommitted has been a vital and vibrant part of this progressive movement, of our democracy, of that rich tradition. Now we'll hear from people from the uncommitted movement to discuss what they'll need to hear to organize votes to Harris in their communities. And I want to introduce one of the precious few Palestinian elected officials in America, Rep. Rua Roman, to lead a panel, in order to have this robust conversation with uncommitted organizers Layla Elabed and Abbas Alawi.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this call, for doing the work that you're doing, for being a part of this movement. It means the world for so many of us. Although I'm a state representative who represents less than 100,000 constituents, over the past 10 months, I've found my responsibilities bursting beyond the boundaries of my district. Whether it was helping Palestinian families work with members of Congress to get their loved ones out of Gaza, or facilitating conversations to try and break through information bubbles and hope that we can fight back against the dehumanization of Palestinians, it has not been easy to say the least. And I know a lot of you, even though you are on this call, have been heartbroken by what was happening to Palestinians. You spent the past months protesting, organizing, pressuring our elected officials, and everything in between to what sometimes may seem like no avail. But I need you to know that it has kept so many of us going. And for me personally, this beautiful multi-faith, multiracial, multi-generational coalition that has emerged has kept me personally alive. And I'm sure there are those like me who have not endorsed the Vice President Harris yet as we wait to learn more about her policy. But because of the urgency of this moment, we also know that there is a massive, because of the urgency of this moment, we know there is a massive threat looming with a second Trump term. I'm here to say both of these positions are valid, and we can hold both at the same time, and that there is still so much all of us can do to keep up the pressure to save lives and bring voters along. So if you haven't heard already, over the past 10 months, an incredible group of organizers came together to build the uncommitted movement to apply both pressure and keep our communities engaged. So now I'd like to turn this over to Abbas and Layla to share what we all can do to help with that campaign and bring those communities back into our coalition.
Thank you, Rua, and thank you to everyone for having us in this space. My name is Layla Elabed. I'm a Muslim American and a first-generation Palestinian American. I'm also a progressive Democrat and a grassroots political organizer dedicated to building electoral power within the Arab American and Muslim American community of Dearborn, Michigan, the epicenter of Arab America. I was taught the core principles of the Democratic Party by my father, who was an immigrant from Palestine that worked on the assembly line of Ford Motor Company and found his political home through the United Auto Workers and within the Democratic Party. In turn, instilling those values in all of his children. The first time I did any kind of electoral organizing was when I was 12 years old, door knocking alongside my sister Rashida before she was a congresswoman, and registering Arab Americans to vote through the Yellow Vote campaign, an initiative in response to the the discriminatory policies that came out of 9/11 and the Iraq War. And I've been doing electoral organizing ever since, building political power within my community and organizing around issues that impact us, like clean water, reliable utility, and affordable housing, as well as combating anti-Arab hate and Islamophobia. But after October, it became almost impossible to focus on anything else other than the horrific images across our screens of the human impact of US policy decisions. Me and my community felt more hopeless and helpless than ever before as we watch and continue to watch Israel's collective punishment of Palestinian men, women, and children. People that look like folks in my community, look like my family members, and even share the names of my own children. When Listen to Michigan Vote Uncommitted was presented as a political strategy to send a message to the Democratic Party and to Biden that his race to the White House couldn't succeed without the support of my community, folks who know firsthand the impact of American-funded bombs and the anti-war coalition we built that isn't just contained to Arab Americans and Muslim Americans. It is multi-generational, multi-ethnic, multiracial, and multi-religious, and represent the majority of Democrats and the need for a policy shift that ends the killing and occupation of Palestinians. It offered some hope for our communities who have felt that we are presented with an impossible choice, a candidate who bans our homelands and offers the continued rise of fascism and authoritarianism, or a candidate that is supporting a fascist and authoritarian government. But Uncommitted has also offered a moment to combat voter apathy among Michigan's Democratic voter base. We were able to mobilize 43% of first-time voters and unlikely voters to vote in the presidential primary to offer the much-needed warning sign that we are in trouble as a party in November, while so many voters of the Democratic base do not support funding Israel's far right-wing government as they carry out a genocidal campaign against Palestinians, while so many of us here at home are struggling to keep our lights on, provide quality education for our children, and afford to live in dignity. In this moment, more than ever, we need to unite our party, the party whose core tenets do not align in this moment with the policy that is funding a war criminal and a fascist government. I urge that we continue pushing Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for president to listen to the majority of Democrats that are demanding the end to the killing and occupation against Palestinians. So we as a party have that fighting chance in November to defeat authoritarianism and fascism that is on our ballot, but also abroad. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Layla. And I will just add, hello, everyone. My name is Abbas Alawi. I'm proud to be joining fellow progressives as a co-leader of the Uncommitted National Movement, as a Michigan DNC delegate, and specifically as one of 30 uncommitted delegates who are headed to the DNC, lifting up the votes of over 740,000 pro-peace, anti-war, democratic voters, including in key swing states for whom the need for a more humane Gaza policy is a top issue. As a progressive, I'm carrying certain tensions and contradictions. I'm asking us to hold them together. I was a congressional staffer in the Capitol on January 6th. So for that reason and a million others, the danger of Donald Trump and his fascism is not theoretical to me. We have to beat Trump in November. I also have family living under the bombs in South Lebanon right now, bombs that I survived as a child. And I do not see the humanity of children being killed en masse in Gaza as any different than my own. So as a delegate, I'm urging us to listen to the over 100,000 voters in Michigan who voted uncommitted to see a new approach to Gaza policy, who are excited to see Vice President Harris as our candidate and hope that means she will meaningfully engage with the central demand of an anti-war movement that has animated voters across the country. That demand is for an arms embargo that saves lives. That demand is for not another bomb. That demand is for us to pivot together to making clear that Trump's fascism and Netanyahu's are one and the same, and we have a responsibility to forcefully oppose both, that demand is a reasonable one for our party to stop supporting the killing of our family members. So I believe that together we will ensure that Vice President Harris wins big and blocks Trump and his white supremacist posse from ever getting anywhere near the Oval Office again. To do that, our strong hope is that she will be responsive to Uncommitted's request to meet and to work towards unity at the DNC so that we can turn to a new, more humane page on Gaza policy, and so that we can be best positioned to help our future President Harris to save lives, unite the party, and mobilize our entire base, including uncommitted voters, to kick Trump's butt. I'm asking you all, fellow progressives, not to sweep this issue under the rug. Let's make sure to adopt a winning strategy that brings back anti-war uncommitted voters. We have an opportunity to help Vice President Harris win, and the Uncommitted National Movement is eager and ready to have the difficult discussions now to make sure that we win it, that we unify and win together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Abbas. Thank you, Rua. Thank you, Layla. And we appreciate you, your organizing, your sacrifice, your dedication, your vision. And it's so critical to elevate leaders that are holding multiple truths, the fight against fascism and Trump here, as well as the commitment to change U.S. policy in Gaza abroad. Thank you so much. And next, we got a bad man. I'm talking about the president of the UAW, a militant fighter for working people, President Shawn Fain.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me here. And it's great to be here with such a great group of people. Look, I mean, I think we all know what this is all about. Look, in the UAW, we've been in our campaign on our big free strike last year. You know, we looked at facts, and we use facts as a way to tell a story to our members about what's important, and even not just our members, to the general public. And you know, we talked about the fact of corporate greed, how obscene the profits have been, and how how our workers went backwards. And so, you know, that's what this is all about to me. We know whose side Kamala Harris is on, and we know whose side Donald Trump is on. Kamala Harris has stood with working people. Donald Trump stands with the billionaire class and the corporate class. And you know, a big deal was made out of President Biden being the first sitting president to ever join striking workers on a picket line this past year. But you know, in 2019, when Donald Trump was president, GM was out there on strike for 40 days. Donald Trump was nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be heard. But you know where Kamala Harris was? She was on a picket line supporting striking workers. That says it all to me. You know, she's done so much in the Biden administration, their whole team working with us to create new jobs, to create a new automotive sector with a battery EV transition, and ensuring those jobs are going to be here in the United States. And you know, Trump talks a hell of a game, but Kamala Harris, through her actions, shows a hell of a lot better than that. And that, to me, is what this election's about. This is about taking our lives back. It's about working class people taking their lives back. And for us, it's a real simple thing. We have what we call our 4 core issues. And that's what we used in our big 3 fight and all of our fights since then. It's a living wage, and not just a minimum wage, a living wage, where no matter what work someone does, they can afford to live a decent life. It's about having adequate health care so that when someone gets sick, you know, or has an unfortunate incident in their life, they don't have to lose everything, or risk health care, paying for prescriptions over eating. You know, having a dignified retirement, you know, when we're too old to work and too young to die. 60% of Americans have no savings for retirement. It's not because they're not responsible. It's just because of the fact that people are working so hard for so little, they can't afford to save any money by the end of the week when all the bills are due. And then the final thing we talk about is having a life outside of work, getting our time back. So many people are working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, or working 2 and 3 jobs just to scrape to get by paycheck to paycheck. We deserve better. And Donald Trump is against all those things because he stands with the billionaire class. And this election's a simple thing to us. We're going to ask our members in the public, which side are you on? And, you know, so we can't continue to let the billionaire class do what they do best, and that's play, divide, and conquer. You know, they want to play the frustration on people. You know, a lot of working class people in this nation have been frustrated with going backwards for decades. And what the wealthy class does best is they want to put a target on there. They want to blame race issues. They want to blame who somebody loves as a reason why your life sucks right now, or they want to blame the new theme as the latest craze is a border crisis. We don't have a border crisis. We have a humanitarian crisis in this country. Those people at the border they're trying to find a better life. They're destitute and desperate people looking for a better life. That's what our nation used to be. It was a beacon for hope for people. That's what we got to take it back to, and that's what this election is all about. So, um, you know, uh, it's amazing seeing Kamala Harris's candidacy and seeing the energy behind the movement now, and and it keeps building. And so we're excited about this. We have a massive opportunity to bring volunteers off the sidelines. Including our family. Those of us calling for a ceasefire and calling for peace. This is what it looks like when we build a winning coalition that can defeat Donald Trump, and that's what the working class needs. And so I'm excited as hell for where we are, where we're headed. We got a short amount of time left to go here. We got a lot of work to do. So I'm excited. This Wednesday, we're going to have a big rally here in Detroit. And I think we're going to blow the roof off the place. I think we're going to have a massive crowd. And so let's keep doing what we got to do here. And let's get the ultimate goal of defeating Donald Trump and putting Kamala Harris in the White House. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, President Fain. Thank you so much for fighting for working people everywhere. And just to quickly, everybody, if you could look for the donate button and look for the volunteer button, click those things, right? We want to make sure that you're not just engaging in the rhetoric, but you're actually getting in motion. Please click the volunteer and the donate button. And with that, I'd like to introduce Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro.
Hey, everybody. Good to be with you. I'm actually traveling with my family, my wife and my 3 kids for the next few days. So you may hear my 2-year-old in the background. But I wanted to get on this call because this country really is at a crossroads, as you all know. We are going to choose between somebody who's going to take us down the road of fascism and authoritarianism, or we're going to choose somebody who's going to protect our democracy and make sure that this is a democratic nation. And a lot of folks over the last few months have asked in particular how they can get their family and their friends and their neighbors to vote. How do you get people inspired? And I think it's true. There's been a burst of energy and a burst of momentum since Kamala Harris took over as our nominee. But as y'all talk about these issues, I hope that you'll do your best to talk about them in very familiar terms, in terms that describe how they affect your life and the life of our family members. And I want to speak really quickly to 2 of those. The first is on healthcare. And some of you may know that a few years ago, I was diagnosed with neuroendocrine cancer. I was in a car accident in Spain, and I got diagnosed in Spain with neuroendocrine cancer. And when I got back to the United States, I had a lot of doctor's appointments and, of course, started treatment and had major surgery last year. And then I was told that I have to take a treatment every month. And I started looking at the different bills that I was getting every month. And even though I have insurance now, there were times growing up when my family and I didn't have insurance, and even times as an adult where I didn't have insurance. So this shot that I have to take every month to get treated for neuroendocrine cancer, the price of that drug called lanreotide, the list price that was on that bill was $24,000 per injection. $24,000 per injection. So you can imagine how many Americans who are underinsured or uninsured in so many states across this nation don't get the cancer treatment that they need because they can't afford it. And that's the case not just for cancer, but for diabetes, for sickle cell, for heart disease, and any number of drugs. The reason it matters in this election is because Donald Trump wants to take away the Affordable Care Act. He wants to do away completely with Obamacare. And Kamala Harris will make sure that we not only protect the Affordable Care Act, but that we expand it so that every American is covered. The second one is on if you remember a few weeks ago during the RNC, you saw these signs of all these thousands of RNC delegates holding up mass deportation signs. In other words, kicking out folks that are not only undocumented, but also, as history has shown us, people who are American citizens. During the Great Depression and then later during what was known as Operation Wetback, there were over 1 million people who were U.S. citizens, not only undocumented immigrants who certainly would be deported, but who were American citizens during these mass deportation campaigns who who had every right to be in the United States that were deported to Mexico, a country many of them had never even been to. So that's what's at stake. I say that as somebody whose grandmother came to this country when she was 6 or 7 years old as an orphan, because both her parents had died at the time of the Mexican Revolution. And when my grandmother came to Texas, there were still signs above some Texas businesses that said no dogs, Negroes, or Mexicans allowed. That is the past that Donald Trump and Project 2025 want to take us back to. So please, y'all, do everything that you can. Make every call you can, walk every block you can, donate every dollar that you can, talk to every family, friend, neighbor, everyone that you can to get them to please vote for Kamala Harris. The future of our country, the future of our democracy, the future of our families is at stake. And thank y'all so much for being engaged and for organizing.
Thank you, Rep. Castro, so much. And as a proud son of a retired SEIU 1199 nurse, I'd like to bring up deck the Secretary Treasurer of SEIU, Rocio Sainez.
Thank you so much, Maurice. It's really great to be here. And thank you, Progressives for Harris, for bringing us all together. SEIU, we represent 2 million service and care workers across the nation, and SEIU members are all in to elect Kamala Harris as our next president. Our members understand what is at stake, just like the people on this call. We don't have to guess what a second Trump term will look like. We know, Project 2025 tells us. Trump will come after workers in every way he can. He will make life harder for women. He will make life harder for immigrants, and corporations and greedy CEOs will be rewarded with more tax breaks while working people will struggle to get ahead. Now, let's look at Kamala Harris. She's a fighter. She has fought for workers' rights, for women's reproductive freedom. She will defend voting rights and civil rights. She will defend the Affordable Care Act, Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. She will defend democracy, and she's fighting for a future that includes all of us. And I want to take a moment to share a reason why Vice President Harris' candidacy is so special to us in SEIU, something that you might not have heard as much about. She spoke with our members at our convention in May. Our members were greatly moved and expressed their gratitude for all that she and President Biden have done for working people. She has walked a day in the shoes of 2 of our members, Wendy Ko, a home care worker in Alameda County, California, and Dee Lowe, a security officer in Detroit. We represent hundreds of thousands of care workers, and care workers are the foundation of our economy and our communities. And all of us are going to need care at some point in our lives. Kamala Harris is a care warrior. The often invisible work done by mostly women and immigrants is not invisible to her. She has fought to increase nursing home safety, lower child care costs, and improve home care for seniors and people with disabilities. She knows a strong economy that works for everyone includes the care economy. That's why our members across the country are mobilizing to elect Kamala Harris. They're knocking on doors, they're phone banking, they're giving up their weekends to support Harris in all the battleground states. And I am so proud of our union, who has a goal of reaching 6 million high opportunity voters. And I know it will take all of us being all in to win. Electing Kamala Harris about all of us is about our future, our economy, our families, and our communities. We need you all to do everything you can to elect Kamala Harris, because as she says, and as we all say, when we fight, we win. And when we vote, we win. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Secretary Treasurer Sainz. Thank you so much for all the work that you do organizing working people all across this country. And before we go to our next, and we got a lot of heavy hitters, before we go to our next speaker, I just want everybody to center the radical joy that has been the heart blood of our progressive movement, the radical joy between family members, between organizers and labor movements throughout history that has transformed history and expanded our democracy. For each of you, you have a different story, maybe in your family, maybe in the organizing spaces that you're from, maybe a historic figure that really inspires you, maybe somebody on this call that inspires you, that sparks that radical joy. We're going to need to make that infectious. Our movement When we win, it's because we are the most compassionate, the most understanding, the most thoughtful, the largest, the bigger we, right? And we're going to need the biggest we possible in order to defeat MAGA and build a progressive future. So let's focus on that for the next days onward and for the rest of this call. And next, I'd like to introduce you to a friend of mine, to a great leader, to the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, to Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Maurice. And I love that you're talking about radical joy and centering that, because I got to tell you, with over 100,000 people already watching this live stream across the country, having gone to Georgia myself as one of the vice president's first surrogates on the campaign, and just seeing the excitement off the charts, it was so beautiful. And I'll tell you, Maurice, because you're an organizer, so many people on this call are organizers, that it's not just the huge amount of money that I'm looking at, but who contributed it, right? 63% from first-time donors, the huge number of voter registrations, over 45,000 new voter registrations in just the first 48 hours after Kamala Harris announced that she was seeking the nomination. And guess what? 83% of those were from folks between 18 and 30 years of age. And the huge number of volunteers, over 40,000 people in the first 24 hours. These are the people that we, the progressive movement, have been working to organize for years, and who are looking to us now to help continue that momentum. This is organizer gold, people. This is momentum, it's energy, it's joy, it's excitement. It is what we need to capitalize on and make sure that we keep up with progressives across the country, because what we've said for so long is coming true, that it is Black, brown, poor, working class, young folks, and women across the country coming together to make a difference in this election. What the Progressive Caucus has done over and over again through the Biden-Harris administration, now with the Harris campaign, is to continue to push a real working class economic agenda that takes on corporate greed and the billionaire class, that is driving up prices for working people, that embraces a pro-union agenda, that passes real reforms for workers to organize, raises the minimum wage to a living wage, protects our freedoms, from the freedom to vote to the freedom to make choices about our own bodies, makes the wealthiest pay their fair share so we can invest in housing and childcare and expanding Medicare and Social Security, and yes, gets rid of the filibuster so we can pass real structural reforms to the Supreme Court, DC statehood, immigration reform, reforms that make our democracy real. I'm really proud that the vice president and I have done some amazing work together. We were both elected to Congress on the same night that Donald Trump was elected in 2016. She and I both becoming the first South Asian American women elected to the House and to the Senate. And then shortly after, when Donald Trump put in place the awful Muslim ban, we together introduced the Access to Counsel Act to fight back. And then we worked on and introduced the National Domestic Workers Bill of Rights together, which is a major piece of legislation that lifts up our workers who do the work that makes all other work possible. And let's never forget that it was this movement of progressives on this call and beyond, in Congress and out, who pushed for and got so much of the agenda done before. We fought together with Vice President Harris and President Biden for the investments in taking on climate change and taxing the wealthiest and getting big pharma to negotiate drug prices, in stopping companies from doing stock buybacks, canceling student debt, and enforcing antitrust law. And it was progressives who ensured that we passed in the House investments in housing, universal child care, long-term care, paid leave in the Build Back Better agenda. And so let me say this, when we get back the trifecta, when we get Kamala Harris elected president of the United States, keep our majority in the Senate, and take back the House, we are going to make sure that we actually get this Progressive Caucus working class agenda done. So with this election, I just think it's critical for us as organizers to think about who is the president under whom our organizing, our agenda from Gaza to labor rights to immigration reform to corporate greed. Who is that possible under? And I would submit to you that it is only possible under President Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has taken on big banks, big pharma, big oil, and she's won. And with us pushing by her side, she will do it all again to protect our democracy, to protect our rights, to protect our planet, and to protect poor and working people. And I just want to be clear about this. Donald Trump is a rambling, incoherent, convicted felon who incited an insurrection and wants to be dictator on day one. And he has outlined exactly what he will do in his dystopian and horrific Trump's Project 2025 agenda. We can't let that happen. No progress is possible. No organizing is possible with him in the White House. And guess what? He is scared. He's so scared that he won't even debate her. So progressives, let's get this done. Let's elect our first South Asian Black woman president to the White House who will fight for all of us to have real opportunity. And when we turn out, we win. So let's go. Back to you, Mo.
Thank you so much, Representative Jayapal. Thank you for all your leadership and your remarks. Next, I want to bring up to speak somebody who started a political revolution and continues to do the Lord's work inside of the U.S. Senate. I'm talking about no other than the senior senator from Vermont, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Well, Maurice, thank you very much for all of the great work that you have done and for your introduction. And let me thank the many thousands of progressives throughout this country. I don't know what I can add to what has already been said tonight, but my message is pretty clear. And that is all of us together must do everything that we can to defeat Donald Trump and elect Kamala Harris as our next president. The truth of the matter is that our nation will not survive in any form that we can be proud of if we elect as president a pathological liar, somebody who I think just doesn't know the difference between the truth and lies, someone convicted of 34 felonies, someone who is a convicted sexual abuser, and someone who, as a businessman in the private sector, was involved in 4,000 different lawsuits. A person like that, someone who lacks the most basic standards of morality, is not someone who should be the leader of the most powerful country on earth. And just think about what a terrible example that sets for our kids and future generations to have somebody like that in the White House, and in fact, what it says to the entire world about our country. I don't have to tell anyone listening that since the inception of this country, women have fought to overcome second-class citizenship. It is absolutely unacceptable to the vast majority of Americans that women lose the very basic right to control their own bodies. And that is the Trump agenda. And we will not allow that to happen, which is why we're going to elect Kamala Harris as our next president. Just so happens that a few weeks ago, planet Earth experienced the warmest day in recorded history. And right now, everybody knows all over the world, we're seeing heat waves, we're seeing more drought, we're seeing more floods, we're seeing more extreme weather occurrences. Every scientist who has studied this issue understands that climate change is real, it is created by carbon emissions and human activity, and is an existential threat to future generations. But not Donald Trump. Unbelievably, he thinks that climate change is a hoax created in China for the sake of our kids and our grandchildren and for the planet. Trump must be defeated and Kamala Harris must be elected. I think back all of the veterans who put their lives on the line to defend American democracy. And in thinking of those who gave so much, Donald Trump must be defeated, because we cannot have a president who has spent years undermining American democracy and who says recently that he will only accept the election results if he thinks the election was fair. Bottom line, Trump must be defeated. Kamala Harris must be elected. And as Pramila Jayapal just mentioned, it's imperative that Democrats gain control over the House and the Senate. And we in the progressive movement must do all that we can to make that happen. And I want to mention to you that just the other day, my campaign commissioned a poll of battleground states. And what we did in that poll is we asked people, tell us, what do you consider to be the major issues facing you and your families? And what would you like the government to do? And the results of the poll should not surprise anybody, although I expect they will surprise some of the pundits on Capitol Hill. Because what the at a time extreme strong governmental action.
Hey, I think we're having little technical difficulties. I want to thank the senator for his remarks. And next up is another fighter for working people. I'm talking about no other than the president of the American Flight Attendants, CWA, President Sarah Nelson.
Thanks, Maurice. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here with all of my progressive friends. I'm happy to speak after our organizer-in-chief, Bernie Sanders, and so happy to be connected to all the people, all the progressives on all the channels, thousands of people watching right now and engaging here. Don't forget to donate and sign up to take part and volunteer. So I just want to note that this is a moment. November 5th is one day. And all of the people on this call and all of the people listening out there have hopes for everything beyond November 5th and to correct the things that have been wrong before that time. And from the beginning of time, we have had a corporate class who has tried to divide us with the 4 Ds: divide, delay, distract, and demoralize. And we have to push back. We have to understand that when they come for women's rights and when we fail to make sure that women have equal rights in this country, that what they're trying to do is to take half the people off the playing field. As an organizer, I know that's a big hit if the company can suddenly remove 50% of the people from an organizing drive. And so we have to understand that these attacks on our rights, these attempts to make people feel demoralized, people's power, is an effort to try to keep us down. And I just want to say that it has been a real joy in the last couple of weeks to feel the joy of coming together, to feel the joy of leadership, to know that it's not true that we're a divided nation, but that actually we have way more in common than anything that can divide us, and that we have so much to accomplish together. We have 5 years to save our planet. We can do it together when we understand what we can lift up in the smarts and the creativity and the ingenuity of the working class, lifting up men and women and people who identify as any kind of gender they may feel at any time, whoever we love, wherever we come from, whatever language was our first language, and where we want to save people too. We have to understand that this election is one moment in time when we can elect a leader to bring us forward and that we can defeat Donald Trump and all of the bad things that come with him. But we also have to understand that what we're building right here, right now, together in this excitement is a real working class revolution that matches what we're seeing out there in the excitement for people to join unions and the excitement for people to fight for peace and make sure that everyone has a chance to live a full and happy life with a living wage, healthcare, retirement, and the ability to have control of our time and our future. So I am so excited to be here with all of you, but I want you to know that on November 5th, if you're choosing the best field to play on, if you're choosing to vote because you're excited about the leadership that you see in Kamala Harris, or if you're just choosing your opponent and you know that you're going to fight forward in the best way to demand the best things for the people that you represent and the people that you want to feel love, then that's fine. But we're going to choose it together. We're going to choose it together. We're going to choose to fight together, not only on November 5th, but every day after, because we're going to demand the best of our leaders. We're going to expect the best of everyone around us. And we're going to lift up those who have felt that they have been persecuted and downtrodden so that we can feel power as a working class together to take hold of not only our country, but our world. This is our world together. And we have to understand that we have, once again, way more in common than anything that divides us. So I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Once again, donate, get involved, understand this is not just about November 5th. As important as November 5th is, we're fighting for our future together. And I'm in it with you to win it going forward. I've got your back. We've all got your back. And we're ready to make good on the promise of a country that is made for everyone. Thank you all. Thanks, Maurice. And I'll see you all soon.
Thank you, President Nelson. We're in it to win it with you. And before we go to our next speaker, just want to remind everybody that's listening from many different channels, this is an organizing call. This is an organizing call, which means we want you to pledge to volunteer, pledge to donate. Go to progressivesforharris.com. Go to progressivesforharris.com right now. Do not wait. Go to progressivesforharris.com and pledge to volunteer and donate. Now, next, we have a special guest, our senator from Massachusetts. We're getting two senators from Massachusetts on one call. Senator Ed Markey.
Well, thank you, Maurice, so much. And thanks for organizing this. And to anyone who is listening, we can't agonize. We have to organize. That's what tonight's about. Organize, volunteering, getting out there, doing the work, tipping dormitories, suburbs, precincts, upside down, getting everyone out to work, because we're here tonight because we know the fate of our democracy and our planet is at stake on election day. Global temperatures are the highest in recorded history. We have a MAGA-captured, illegitimate Supreme Court that gave us the Dobbs decision, but gave Donald Trump immunity. The immoral distribution of wealth in this country, voting rights restrictions, election interference, Project 2025. We are facing generational challenges as Americans, but under the leadership of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, we have met the challenge. 15 million new jobs, including the largest year of job growth in American history. We appointed, Kamala and Joe appointed the first Black woman, Ketanji Brown Jackson, to the U.S. Supreme Court. We passed the Inflation Reduction Act, otherwise known as the single largest investment in our nation's history to combat climate change and be the leader in the world, with Kamala Harris there to cast a historic tie-breaking vote. And who was it that created, in partnership with me, the $27 billion National Climate Bank, where 50% of the money goes to Black, brown, and to disadvantaged communities? Kamala Harris. Do you know who introduced with me the law that eventually became the Juneteenth national holiday? Kamala Harris. Do you know who secured $20 billion for homeowners during the foreclosure crisis? Do you know who prosecuted and collected billions of dollars from oil companies and corporate polluters? Do you know who was the first woman, first African American, first Asian American vice president in the history of the United States? Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris. And she is going to make history again on election day. There's no one better to prosecute the case against the felon Donald Trump than Kamala Harris. And while she was leading the vanguard on reproductive freedom and abortion rights and representing our country at the highest level of negotiations around the world, Republicans and Heritage Foundation, Billionaire Boys Club were writing Project 2025, their hateful, racist, homophobic, misogynistic roadmap for a fascistic, extremist, MAGA-fueled future. They don't want to make America great again. They want to make America hate again. That's Donald Trump. Those are the agenda items that he wants to get passed. Affirmative action, gone. LGBTQ rights, gone. Access to contraception, gender-affirming care, the Department of Education, gone, gone, gone. And when GOP wasn't standing for got our protections, it was standing for gas and oil party. In May, Trump told Big Oil that the price is right with a campaign contribution of $1 billion. He would eviscerate all of the climate regulations that Democrats put on the books to save our planet and create millions of new jobs. All those tax credits from the IRA, wind, solar, battery storage technologies, all electric vehicles, gone. Under Trump, the IRA is DOA. Fuel economy standards, gone. All of those benefits, gone. Paris Climate Agreement, gone. Environmental justice funding for our Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Native communities, gone. Clean Air Act protections, offshore oil drilling restrictions, gone. If he gets elected, Donald Trump's not going to have a cabinet in his administration. He's going to have a cartel. He's giving away the agenda to the fossil fuel polluters. And they talk a lot about socialism. Oh, the Green New Deal is socialistic. Well, what do you call tax breaks on the books for oil and gas and coal companies for 100 years? I call that socialism. Give us the same socialism for wind and solar and EVs, and we will bury the fossil fuel industry back to the ground where they belong. So we know that they have a Project 2025. Then we're going to need a victory for Kamala 2024. That's the only answer we can provide. So I just ask all of you to get out there, join Kamala, volunteer in a movement to uphold democracy that works for everyone. Volunteer for a movement that believes in science, holds corporations accountable, builds a livable future, a movement that fights for our workers and our unions and their right to organize and collectively bargain, a movement that says the NRA should stand for not relevant anymore in American politics, restores Roe versus Wade, and makes sure on Election Day that we make history by making Kamala Harris the next president of the United States. We're going to need you to get out there and volunteer to make whatever contribution you can. And then this generation will make this country more fair, more safe, more clean, more healthy, and begin to capture the real agenda our country should have. So get out there, go do it. You are the people. This is the time. Let's get it done in the final 90 days. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Senator Markey. Let's go do it. Absolutely. And next up, I have a friend and comrade, somebody who has been organizing for social justice, racial justice, economic justice for years and years and decades, and currently plays a critical role on the Harris campaign, no other than the legendary Heather Booth.
When we organize, we can change this world. When we fight, we win. The Harris for President campaign asked me to thank you all for organizing tonight, and even more for organizing as you do every day. It's wonderful to be with so many extraordinary progressive organizers and leaders united in our shared fight for justice and freedom, in support of Kamala Harris for president and up and down the ballot in this struggle against the Trump-Vance MAGA threat. Together, we're building a winning campaign and a vibrant progressive movement. Kamala Harris is fighting to move us forward to a future where no child has to grow up in poverty, where every person has a home, affordable health care, childcare, family leave, where every worker is paid fairly and can join a union, where every senior can retire in dignity, where we protect the most intimate decision of our lives and codify Roe. And we strengthen democracy and will pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. All of this and more is possible. A new world is possible. You are the organizers and leaders who know that when we organize, we have changed this world. You are the world changers. Thank you all. Thank you, progressives. And to volunteer and engage as progressives with the Harris for President campaign, please go to kamalaharris.com/progressives-grassroots. And when we organize, we will change this world.
Thank you so much, Heather Booth from the Harris campaign. And next, sometimes it's good to have a constitutional scholar in government, right? Especially in a moment like this with so much lawlessness and so much craven corruption in the MAGA movement. So I'm so happy to bring up Congressman Jamie Raskin. Congressman Raskin.
Maurice, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be with everybody. And, you know, we're here as true blue progressive Democrats, but I thought I would use my minute or two and kick off by kind of on a bipartisan note and invoke our last great Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, who spoke of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And that has been the tantalizing, elusive ideal of American democracy. We didn't begin that way. We began as a slave republic of Christian white male property owners over the age of 21, but it has been through successive waves of social and political struggle and constitutional change that we've opened America up, and much more come to approximate Lincoln's beautiful ideal for what America might become. And what I want to say today is that we are at a crossroads. I mean, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Vladimir Putin and Viktor Orban and Project 2025 want to take us back to some other kind of form of government, to theocracy for some of them, to monarchy for some of them. The autocrats, the plutocrats, all of them have gathered together to try and destroy American democracy. But what I want to say is the vast majority of the American people are on our side. I've been to 23 states now out campaigning for Democrats, and especially since Kamala has taken over the ticket. But even before, we were seeing huge, just absolutely surging crowds of people. I was just in Maine. There was at the College of the Atlantic. There were more than 1,000 people who showed up there. I was in Nashville at their state party convention dinner. There were 1,200 people there. So it's just gigantic momentum, focus, and unity. I learned an amazing fact, which is 81% of the people in America are women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ community, or young people from ages of 18 to 30. And also some progressive white dudes out there too. But 4 out of 5 people fit into those categories. Remember that Joe Biden beat Donald Trump by more than 7 million votes in 2020. And what's the difference between 2020 and 2024? Well, we've got 12 or 13 million new young voters who are joining the roll. So we have got to be organizing for a landslide demolition of the MAGA party. And I think we can achieve, if we do our job right as organizers, we can achieve the decisive repudiation of their authoritarianism and their kleptocracy and their corruption, and we can continue to move forward. And, we have a whole world to gain. And, democracy is still growing. I mean, we need statehood for the people in Washington, D.C., 713,000 tax-paying, draftable American citizens who have a real live political grievance, but didn't come down to Capitol Hill and beat the hell out of our police officers and try to overthrow our Constitution. They've done it the right way. They've asked for statehood. And we got 3.5 million Americans living in Puerto Rico who are also disenfranchised. So we need to move forward with statehood. We need a constitutional amendment on the right to vote. And how about this? It's 2024. How about it's time for us to start electing the president the way we elect representatives, mayors, governors, senators, everybody else? Whoever gets the most votes wins. The Electoral College has given us 5 popular vote losers in our history, twice in this century alone, in 2000 and in 2016. The Electoral College can get you killed these days when you've got a strategic bad faith actor like Donald Trump out there unleashing mobs against Congress, the Constitution, and even his own vice president. So we need to keep moving democracy forward. Tocqueville said, in America, democracy is either shrinking and shriveling away or it's growing and expanding, and we got to get back on the growth track, and it's the progressives who are going to make that happen. Thank you for having me. Hang tough, everybody. I look forward to seeing you guys at the Democratic Convention, and keep organizing. All best.
Thank you, Congressman Raskin. And I just got word that we're at an estimated 100,000 people currently watching across all of the different streams. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember, this is an organizing call. So if you have not yet volunteered, if you had not yet clicked the link or put your phone past the QR code and signed up for a volunteer shift, do it now. This is an organizing call. We are organizing and building momentum towards a victory. And next, I have the honor to call up 2 of the fiercest organizers I know, 2 women who are leading massive organizing networks from the ground up. You talk about organizing to win. Every single day, these women live and breathe organizing. These are my sisters. I work with them every day to build power from the grassroots up. I'm talking about none other than Ana Lilia Mejia and Salma Arias.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to hear the number of people who are tuning in and are like ready to roll. And, great job, Mo, at organizing us, at getting this like powerful group of people together, and really to focus on the simple fact. Come November, we are going to be able to vote and decide which future we're going to live in. 7 generations from now are going to speak about our actions or inaction. And I'm curious as to what they will in fact say. Now, about tonight, I think what they will say is that a bunch of organizers from across a movement that are focused on building the kind of people power that will allow us to capture governing power got together today to sound the alarm and to say, y'all, we are in it to win it. So many people will try to tell us that governing or government, better yet, is a problem or the problem. But we as organizers know that governing is the prize. So I'm not going to repeat all the smart things that so many people said tonight. I am going to instead capture this little moment as an organizer and try to just run a mini organizing lesson for all of us here. It's like top of mind for us right now is that we must move in this moment with exponential people power. What does that mean? That means that you not only have to be clear about what actions you are going to take between now and Election Day, but I challenge all of you to create your build list. Identify the people that you are going to move into formation, not only to vote come November, but also to keep them engaged, because again, governing is the prize. So when you make that list and you think about your own action for Election Day, I want you to make a plan on how you're going to get there, at what time you're going to vote, and when, and help your build list identify it for them as well. In fact, if you can, I urge you to early vote, because nothing is more incredible than volunteering on Election Day and knowing that you already voted, y'all. The second thing that I'm going to share with y'all, as organizers, we need to be clear that we are contesting for narrative primacy, my friends. We are injecting our theory of the problem and proposed solutions into the ether and ensuring that our communities are very clear about what's at stake and what their role is in self-governance. As an organizer, I love 6-word sentences. They help me distill what it is that I'm trying to achieve or what I am confronting. And in this moment, my 6-word sentence, y'all, is vote today so we capture governing power tomorrow. That may have been more than 6 words. I'm going to leave it at, we need to be clear about what we are doing. Yes, Election Day matters. Yes, the volunteering that will happen between now and that day will be transformative. I urge you to stay connected with community organizations like Lucha and Fuerte in Arizona, like Detroit Action and Flint Rising in Michigan. Matter of fact, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't name all 51 of the organizations affiliated with CPD. So I'm going to encourage you to just text join us at 25463 and we'll hook you up with any organization in our network so that you could get to work. It's like, but the last thing I really need to say to y'all is the day after election will matter as well. We are here for governing power. We are here to set an agenda. We are here to win the things and pull the world from where it is to where it should be. And so again, make a plan, make your list, turn out that vote, amplify our effort, and then come back the day after Election Day, because together we're going to organize towards power. So handing it now to my sister Sulma, who I'm sure is going to rock it and tell us even more about how we're going to win. Sulma.
Thank you, Ana Lilia. Thank you. Thank you, Maurice. It's so good to be here with all of you tonight. And yes, People's Action is all in. We've spent the last 2 election cycles really testing and refining a highly effective voter persuasion program called Deep Canvas. In 2020, People's Action trained over 23,000 volunteers, made millions of attempts to reach voters, and that resulted in over 280,000 Deep Canvas conversations with people in battleground states. 48% of those people, the people we talked to, moved towards voting for Biden and Harris in 2020. A lot of our focus was in rural areas where voters were conflicted on issues like immigration and climate. This year, our IE team is focusing on urban and rural voters in battleground states. And together with our national volunteer program, they plan to double the outreach we did in 2020 by training 43,000 volunteers. Yes, 43,000 volunteers. This means that we need you. They are amazing. You will not regret learning the art of Deep Canvas. So please join them. Go to People's Action and join us. Join them. This is an incredible team. You will not regret it. So please join us. They will be speaking to conflicted voters to persuade them to vote for Kamala Harris for president, as well as other state candidates endorsed by our state affiliates. So please join them. You will be trained, and you will be trained on how to talk to people and persuade them to vote. And lastly, I want to say that what we've learned from Deep Canvassing is that expanding our tent and bringing people who are not yet with us does not mean giving up on our progressive values and policies. And that if we take time to listen, we will find that the majority of people are with us on issues like immigration, climate, abortion, and other important issues. So here at People's Action, we are committed to what we call an organizing revival, which means we are building a base of people who want to build community year-round. So this election for us is about expanding the number of people who want to build for us long-term, so that together we can win this election and continue to fight for what we need. So thank you for all you do already, and let's do this.
Are you not convinced that they're two of the baddest organizers in the land? Thank you so much, my sisters. Soma Arias, the executive director of People's Action, and Ana Lilia Mija, the co-executive director of Center for Popular Democracy. You want grassroots organizing, they are building it. Next, I have the honor of introducing a man who I met as an educator and a union organizer, who shocked the world and is now the mayor of the third largest city in our country, transforming the conditions from the ground and showing what aggressive, progressive, visionary leadership looks like on the municipal level. I'm speaking about no other than my friend and brother, Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Wow, thank you, Maurice. Thank you for your leadership, brother. It's good to see you. And to the Working Families Party, thank you for the vision that you have set to build a progressive movement across this country. Working people, Black, brown, white, Asian, young, old, this intergenerational, multicultural movement has literally begun to transform this country in the way in which our ancestors envisioned. Look, I'll just cut to it. Electing Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States of America is a matter of my daughter, who can see a reflection of her being and her values wrapped up in one person. And this is a unique moment in our nation's history to radically transform our government in a way that speaks to the interests of working people, that elevates the voices of the poor, to make sure that every single person who has a need, that right is met. You know, when it comes to Kamala Harris, the vice president in this moment, what excites me most is that she is committed and dedicated to the values that we speak of as progressives. Her leading the charge of the brand new Office of Gun Violence Reduction is very much aligned with what we're doing in the city of Chicago, a brand new Office of Community Safety that's dedicated to getting at the root causes of crime in this country so that we can begin to transform these communities that have been historically disinvested in. Her commitment to make sure that housing is available for working people, her taking on the big banks and major corporations to ensure that millions of dollars will be restored back into the hands of working people is spot on with what we're doing in Chicago. I released a $1.25 billion investment for economic development and affordable housing to ensure that working people can live in the communities in which they're raising their families in. And then, of course, finally, her commitment to mental health care and education. As a former public school teacher, her dedication of $280 million to expand and make sure that we have more behavioral health counselors in our schools to address mental health. This is personal for me. We reopened mental health clinics that were closed by previous administrations in Chicago to ensure that every single family has access to mental health care services. Look, it's no secret that we have a party, the Republican Party, that has made it very clear that they want a rematch of the Civil War. They have not accepted the results of that. And we have to ensure that generations to come will know that we stood up at a very critical time in our nation's history to ensure that people are centered in our efforts in government. You know, the last thing that I'll say, you know, I think it's actually quite fitting that this coalition certainly reflects the hopes and aspirations of Shirley Chisholm, who brought us together and said, we are unbought and unbossed. We're also reflecting the strong axiom that hope is still alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. We are also imbibing the movement that said, yes, we can. And now we are in a moment when we get to say, when we fight, we win. That is the hope and the aspirations that Kamala Harris brings to this moment. Dr. King said that when the civil rights movement and the labor rights movement collide, what enormous potential we have. And that is the potential that we live in right now to transform our country centered around our values that speaks to the hopes and aspirations of the next generation. Look, as progressives, we get to live in the duality of governance. You know, in Chicago, you know, we're making sure that new arrivals are welcome, but we're also calling for reparations. We can actually call out the terrorist attacks and condemn them and also say we need a ceasefire. Progressives get to lead on our values, and we don't have to equivocate in this moment. And that's why I'm proud to support Kamala Harris for President of the United States of America. So continue to organize, continue to build this movement to ensure that our future is much better than what we inherited. Thank you all very much. Hey, look, I can't wait to see you all in Chicago. The DNC is going to be in the greatest freaking city in the world. So continue to organize, and I'll see you in Chicago in a couple of weeks.
All right. See you there, my brother. Thank you so much for everything you do for the people of Chicago and people everywhere. You are a beacon of aggressive, progressive governance. Next, and we're going to go from one educator and organizer to another one. So I'd like to introduce a friend of mine, an educator, an organizer, a fighter for working people. Randy Weingarten, who's the president of the American Federation of Teachers, who'll be introducing Lakia Wilson-Lumpkin, who's the president of the Detroit Federation of Teachers, as well as Jessica Tang, who's the president of the American Federation of Teachers in Massachusetts.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for doing this, Mo. And I'm going to be really, 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 really quick, which is I have this amazing, this is my Kamala shirt, by the way. I hope you see it. We had it at our convention where she electrified everyone. And Lakia and Jessica will talk about that and so much more. But let me say this. We know what we're up against. Everybody's been talking about that today. We know who these guys are who are fighting against us. We know what they've tried to do to ban books, to censor history, to try to undermine the pluralism of schools, why they are so afraid of knowledge. I think us as progressives understand that very much. But the bottom line is this. They want to ban books. They want to suppress history. They want to cut the funding of public schools. They want to throttle opportunity. They do not like freedom, as so many others have said, except for themselves. So we got a big, big battle ahead of us because of who these other guys are. But better than that, it's who our team is. When Kamala Harris was at our convention, she electrified people. And one of the things she said was that she talked about her first grade teacher and how her first grade teacher came to her law school graduation. The connection, the bond, you could see that in that story. The fight for opportunity, not just to get by, but to get ahead. So we know, Lakia knows, she's from Detroit. We know what it means when you defund public schools and you hurt the resources, so we can't help kids. We also know what it means, Jess Tang will talk about it, what it means when you censor history and you ban books. So it's not just about what the bad is. It is about what the future can be, a future of unions, a future of climate where we can take on climate change, a future of opportunity, a future where kids do not have student debt, a future where we can have a thriving middle class. That is what Kamala Harris means, building on what Biden and Harris has done. And that's why, as I introduce Lakia and Jessica, I'm just saying we got not a whole lot of time. 90 plus days. We got to get out and we got to win this one. And with that, seize the future. Take it away, Lakia, and then Jessica.
Thank you, President Randy. Yes, we too feel the radical joy. We are truly excited to be here this evening with 100,000 of you. Labor leaders are definitely radically joyous. We are excited about Vice President Kamala Harris's candidacy for the United States president. We are excited because electing Kamala Harris means we have a fighter with a proven record of fighting for education, health, safety, our infrastructure, women, maternal health, economic justice, climate, and of course, labor. Yes, we are progressives. We must keep this forward momentum going. So what we must do is turn out the vote. We cannot and will not leave anything to chance. We cannot leave to chance Supreme Court justice seats, our Social Security, education, student debt, voting rights, abortion rights, LGBTQIA rights, the freedom to read books. Simply stated, our human rights and freedoms for all people are what's on the line, not just our civil liberties. We're talking about our very livelihoods. They're at stake. So our next steps are critical. I'm going to turn it over to President Jessica Tang.
Thanks so much. Randy and Lakia really shared what's at stake. And I'm inspired to be here because it's not just for educators and those who care about public education. It's not just union members, but it's all of us who believe in a different future and a different world is possible. And as activists and organizers who believe in progressive values, we know what we need to do because it's what we always do. No matter who may be in the race and no matter what the fight may be, we have to organize, organize, and organize, and to ensure we continue to make progress, not regress. And we need to get out the vote to elect those who are best positioned to do that. And this means reaching out to young voters, LGBTQ voters, working class voters, first-time voters. And for those of us who are bilingual or multilingual, including ASL, we need to have organizing conversations to get voters registered, talk to potential voters, and help them understand why they need to take action and how important voting for Kamala is, and activate them to get others in their communities also out to vote too. And it's not just for president, but down the ballot as well. And our organizing does not end on November 5th. We also need to stay organized to ensure not only that Kamala Harris wins, but also when she does, the results are protected and democracy is protected. And beyond November, we have to continue to mobilize and organize to protect and fight for the values we believe in. As John Lewis would remind us, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? So please sign up to volunteer, donate, take action. It really is us who are going to make the difference, and the time is now.
That's right. The time is now. Thank you so much, Lakia, Jessica, and my sister, Randy. Three grassroots organizers, union leaders, educators fighting for working people everywhere. And next is a friend and comrade in the fight, Adam Green from the PCCC. Take it away, Adam.
Thanks, Maurice. And thank you to all the rock star leaders who really got this together in 5 days. Truly an amazing feat. For the many, many thousands of people out there who are members, hello. And for those who are not, quick intro. Progressive Change Campaign Committee, boldprogressives.org. We do half elections and half government relations. During years like this, we help elect bold progressive leaders and important Democrats who are trying to save democracy up and down the ballot. And then very importantly, we continue that relationship and help pass great things like the Biden-Harris IRA bill into law so that we can actually put billions of dollars into our schools and our economy and fight for jobs. So I want to make a really counterintuitive point, perhaps, as a policy person and as someone who I know is on a call with people with shared policy values, which is that nothing matters more in this election than vibes. I hope that's an observation that we're all kind of baking into our calculus right now. When I say vibes, I mean strength versus weakness, shake up the system outsider versus establishment insider, normal versus couch, things like that. And that's not separate from policy. Just today, just several hours ago, actually, got huge news that the Biden-Harris administration had a giant victory against Google for the first time, literally since last century. We've had this massive corporation declared a monopoly. That could be described in many wonky terms, but man, that feels good. Government in the hands of the right people, going to bat for the little guy, going to bat for small businesses, holding corporations accountable. That's about strength. That victory is part of vibes, right? Part of what we need in a future Harris administration is a continuation of really good people in government. One can make a very wonky case for Lena Khan at the Federal Trade Commission or Rohit Chopra at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that Elizabeth Warren talked about before. But, I'll tell you, when we talk about cracking down on abusive corporations that are jacking up prices on families for everything from groceries to gas prices to prescriptions to bank fees, this is stuff that actually animates people and impacts their life. And quick story, I have a cousin, very non-political. We got coffee recently, and she said to me, "What do you do professionally again? Is it like political stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do political stuff." And she's like, I don't do politics." And I said to her, let me just mention one issue that we've been working on a little bit recently. And I said the word Ticketmaster, and her eyes lit up. And she starts talking about how much she and her family get screwed every time they want to buy a ticket to something. And then she told me about how she's taking her kids on a vacation, the hotels, the airlines, getting them surprise fees left and right? It was a vibe. It's a small issue that stands for a larger story of our side going to bat for the little guy. So I bring that up because Kamala feels different, right? Only now could we possibly have Kamala is Brat pins. And, we have the cool breeze at our back. And my aspiration for this call is that we leave here and all are intent on turning that into a whirlwind. We're all organizing even more in our communities. And that's why I hope that you donate. If you see a button in front of you, volunteer. If you see a volunteer link in front of you. And I hope you go to a website we set up called endorsekamala2024.com, which is our attempt to get regular people, in addition to the union leaders, in addition to the organization leaders, in addition to the politicians, everyday people publicly endorsing the Harris ticket and also telling us your superpowers. Are you a musician? Are you an electrician? Are you a coder or a video gamer? Are you an event planner? We would like to help sync regular people who got the vibes at our back, who are so enthusiastic for this ticket, to really connect with both the Harris campaign and also down ballot folks that really need your help. So I hope you'll go to endorsekamala2024.com, be part of the vibes. And I'll just say, we have the strength. We are winning. We are shaking up the system. So I hope we all get out there, combine the policy and the vibes together, and let's get Kamala Harris elected. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, fellow progressives.
And thank you. And quickly, I'd like to turn it to a progressive fighter in Congress. I'm talking about no other than California Congressman Ro Khanna.
Thank you, Maurice. Thank you. What an exciting call. I hear over 100,000 people. That's an incredible job you've done in organizing and getting so many progressive stalwarts on. I was just in Reno, Nevada for Vice President Harris, and it was electric. Over 100 people showed up in a small place to knock on doors, volunteer, and that was 3 times that were showing up earlier. So the energy is there. I just think we need to mobilize our progressive movement to run on a clear working class agenda, strengthening Social Security, making sure we're expanding Medicare to dental, vision, and hearing, having a living wage, making sure that we're ending medical debt, making sure that we're making public college tuition free. These are the policies that are going to speak to the working and the middle class, and they're exceedingly popular. And when we run on a progressive economic vision, a vision to empower the working and middle class, recognizing that they're still hurting with high rents, to cap rents. I mean, I heard that all over Nevada, the rents are too high. We want to cap these rents for landlords, but we need to make the economic case. We need to make the case that we're the party of peace. I mean, Lindsey Graham is talking about going to war in Iran. No war in Iran. I'm going to be introducing legislation and working with others to stop the madness of us getting into a Middle East war. We need a ceasefire and a release of the hostages, and we need to stop sending offensive weapons to Netanyahu. So we need to campaign with our values, our progressive values front and center, on peace, on human rights, on a bold economic vision. These are popular policies. These are what the country wants. And when we do that, we will elect Vice President Harris as president and usher in a bold progressive era. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for organizing. Let's go win.
Let's go win. That's right. Thank you so much, Congressman. Next up, we have a local fighter in Wisconsin. I'm talking about no other than Minority Leader, Wisconsin State Assembly Member, Greta Neubauer. Greta.
Thank you so much, Maurice, and so great to be here with you all. My name is Greta. I'm a former climate organizer, state representative, and the Wisconsin Assembly Democratic leader. I am from Purple, Racine County, in the often tipping point state of Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, we know what it's like when our democracy is broken. For over a decade, we were the Koch brothers' testing ground for their right-wing agenda. Republicans implemented the most gerrymandered legislative maps in the country. They were so gerrymandered that it was more likely that Republicans would get a supermajority than Democrats would get a majority in an almost perfectly 50-50 state. Republicans and their rich friends went after voting rights, changed campaign finance law, and attacked unions. In short, they did everything they could to consolidate their power and prevent the voters from holding them accountable. But people in Wisconsin kept organizing. We worked day after day, year after year to win elections, build movements, and get fair maps. And I am here tonight on this call to tell you that we are not going back. But Republicans learned something in Wisconsin. They learned it was worth it for them to rig the system because they didn't have to listen to us. Movements of hundreds of thousands could not change their minds. As an organizer, I learned about how to move public opinion, influence political outcomes, and win progressive policy, but it was really hard to do that in a state where Republicans could not lose. Donald Trump is an existential threat to our democracy. He has no reservations about undermining democratic norms. He will change the rules. He will insulate himself from the will of the people. He will implement the Wisconsin playbook on a national scale. Take it from someone who's lived that political nightmare. It will be really hard for us to come back from that. We simply have to win in November. We have to do everything we can to elect Kamala Harris. As someone who is knocking on doors in Wisconsin every week, let me tell you, there are a lot of undecided voters who are still out there, and they need to hear from us. The threat to our democracy is very real, and expanding the Harris Coalition also means we need to offer a positive vision about the future of what is possible, the ability for all of us to thrive. It will take work to achieve this vision, but with the Harris administration, we can win that future. There is nothing inevitable about our victory in November. We all need to do our part for our people, our movements, and our democracy. Please join and knock doors in your community, in Wisconsin, or in your closest swing state. We can win, but it will not happen without all of us digging deep. Thank you for being here, and see you all out there.
Thank you so much, Greta. And if folks want to volunteer with Working Families Party, the organization that I lead, all you have to do is take your phone out and text to the number 30403, the word Slack. That will send you to our volunteer Slack and we'll get you involved. Again, if you want to roll with the Working Families Party, the organization and movement that I lead, text to the number 30403, the word Slack. Next up, I have a very special guest, a sister, a close friend, a comrade, a leader, a beacon of hope for so many of us. I'm talking about no other than civil rights and voting rights leader, LaTosha Brown.
Greetings, you all. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Oh, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. That's a song by Sweet Honey in the Rock that was written by who just recently departed, which is Bernice Johnson Reagan. And it's a song that's really created in a space of us really recognizing as progressives and who we are, what's our responsibility? Our responsibility is to take care of this planet. Our responsibility is to take care of this nation. Our responsibility is to take care of our families. Our responsibility is to take care of each other. And so I can go on with and give kind of some of the policy pieces. I think that everything that you all have heard so far, we've heard around what we believe that this administration can bring, the possibilities and potentiality that can come out of this, that those of us who actually know Vice President Kamala Harris personally and know, like, really believe in her and support her and excited about her candidacy, yes, this campaign is about her, but this campaign is also about us, that we have to really recognize that in this moment, this campaign is about us. This campaign is about what the vision is that we have for this nation, pushing it forward. Are we going to go forward or are we going to go backwards? And at the end of the day, when you look at what progressives have been able to do, we have been able to do by standing in a space of hope and belief. We have to recognize that there's a particular unique moment in time that we're literally able to actually push and open up the cracks and open up the space for there to be more inclusivity, for us to open up the space so that we can radically reimagine this nation and public policy that are going to serve people. We're the ones that we can't be afraid just to say, not to be able to offer for all of us, for all the people, not just when we're talking about working class and upper middle class and middle class. We have to be able to own that. Part of our responsibility is to make sure that we're actually speaking and advocate for all of us, particularly the poor, those of us who have been left out of this process, those of us that are standing on the fringes. That is important for us to know this. And so I keep hearing my brother Maurice talk about a North Star, and I just want to take a couple of seconds. I've been thinking a lot about the North Star, what the North Star means. And I just want us to think about, as I was thinking about the North Star, it came from me really reading about a woman named Harriet Tubman that some of y'all may have heard of, and that she actually used the North Star to navigate, to find herself in a space of freedom. And what was interesting is, as I was reading and researching the North Star, that I thought that the North Star was the brightest the star in the sky. It's not. It's not the brightest, but it's the most consistent. And it's the most dependable star that you can always go out in the sky and you can find that star. And the interesting thing about stars, I was asked a couple of weeks ago around, yes, we've got this threat of Trump and we've got this dark night in political history. That's one way of looking at it. But another way of looking at it is the only time that you can actually see the stars is at nighttime. That for some people, this moment looks like, oh, it's the dark night of the soul. No, this is a moment for literally the stars to come out. Those of us that believe in freedom, this is our moment, not just our moment in putting a candidate in office. That is important, that we need to make sure that we put an administration in office and a visionary, someone who aligns with our values. But it's important for us to really do that in a way that's convincingly, that we've got to not only just win this election, we've got to win this election by a large margin. Why? Because we've got to send a message that anytime that you come after our communities, or any candidate that seeks to be divisive, that seeks to actually be exclusive, that seeks to undermine the very values of our humanity, that ultimately there's a price to pay. And as we're doing this work, we have to see ourselves as we are the North Star. We have to really use this moment to capture the hearts, the minds, and the imaginations of the people that are out there. That we are the people who are the hope bringers. We are the people that actually can help people in a real, tangible way connect their politics to the policies that are actually going to help encourage and improve their lives and increase their quality of life. So why am I excited? Because there's certain moments. Y'all, there are certain moments in political history. I am a student of history. I'm a student of movements. And when you see there's an alignment of the progressive movement and there's an opportunity where our communities really need us, this is the moment, y'all, for the stars to come out. This is our moment to really be able to do what we need to do. Make sure that that we're out 10 people, that we have at least a crew of 10 people that we're working with, that we're literally setting a vision, that we're getting people excited about working and getting the next president as Vice President Kamala Harris to get her in office with a convincingly win. Thank you. We who believe in freedom, y'all, cannot rest and will not rest until it comes.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Indeed, my sister Latasha, thank you so much for that message. Next, I have the honor of bringing up to speak a fighter for our people, Congresswoman, the Congresswoman from Minnesota, a movement Congresswoman, my friend Ilhan Omar.
Thank you so much, Maurice, and hello to everyone who is with us tonight. It is really exciting to be with you all. And I want to say to Sister Brown, as a resident of the North Star State, it is really good to hear from you. I was thinking a lot about that North Star, actually, as you were speaking, and I was thinking about what is our North Star as progressives. And that is to create progress and to continue to build on the progress that we have already made. And in the last 3.5 years, the Biden-Harris administration has made incredible progress in addressing the climate crisis, in canceling student debt, in investing in our public education, in protecting our labor brothers and sisters and our siblings, in making sure that there was more affordable housing, and in investing in our Native siblings. So there is a lot of progress in dealing with gun violence prevention, in creating opportunities to expand research on women's health, in addressing the maternal mortality rate. There's so much progress that we have been able to make, and investments in the last 3.5 years. And I am very excited for the Harris administration to continue to build on that progress. And so these are the two opportunities we have. Do we organize our asses off to make sure we have a president that we can mobilize with and continue to build on the progress that we've made in this last administration? Or do we take the chance of having another Trump presidency, where we know that in his first time around, just in 4 years, he's taken away reproductive rights, women's right to choose, that we had guaranteed for over 50 years in just 4 years. So think about the implementation of Project 2025 and how much it is going to set our country back, and what it will take for us to even start to think about what it means to make progress again. So this is the time, my friends, this is the time for us to be honest about the reality that we are looking at. We have little over 90 days to talk to our friends, to our neighbors, to our family members about what it means to protect our immigrant siblings, what it means for us to continue to make progress in addressing the climate crisis so that future generations can thank us. We have an opportunity to expand civil liberties. We have an opportunity possibly to reshape the Supreme Court to make sure they are not making drastic changes to the liberties that we all enjoy. So I hope, and I'm not going to stay on too long, and I know that we're running late. I do hope that everybody does what they can do between now and November 5th. I am fighting to defeat a toxic Don in the primary on the 13th of August, and I look forward to getting back on the trail and making sure that we defeat another toxic Don. So thank you all for coming together tonight. Thank you, Maurice, and everyone else who participated in organizing and convening us. And I am really grateful to all of my colleagues that added their voice to this call of urgency, and to my fellow organizers. Thank you for the incredible work that you do and the work that you will continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Omar. Next, I'd like to bring up a representative of that future generation, Gen Z, who's organizing and challenging us to think of new ways of aligning our North Star with the type of politics that actually could actually meet the moment, meet the crises that we're facing. So Elise Joshi, who is the executive director of Gen Z for Change, come on up and let us know what your movement is doing in order to make sure that we achieve victory in November.
Hi, my name is Elise. I'm a 22-year-old climate and labor organizer and executive director of Gen Z for Change, a nonprofit that utilizes the power of code, creators, and social media to make tangible change on the ground. Our recent tool led to 100 million emails for ceasefire sent to Congress. We were part of the viral Stop Willow movement that led to several federal climate wins. We flooded and took down statewide anti-CRT tip lines, and we currently have a campaign to support Amazon labor unions' contract fight. Gen Z is acutely aware of what this election means for the issues that we care about. The next president will serve until 2029, a critical time for climate action, to say the least. We need and deserve a president that believes in climate science and champions policies that align with it. Donald Trump believes climate change is a hoax, and he sold out our planet and our future to big oil lobbyists for a $1 billion campaign donation. His climate policies are non-existent. Additionally, Gen Z was and is a critical part of the unionization boom. From Starbucks Workers United to UAW's UC academic worker strike that I had the honor to speak at as a student in solidarity, we need and deserve a president that supports workers' rights to a union, to thriving wages, and safe working conditions. Trump will gut the National Labor Relations Board and allow corporations to union bust and exploit workers. Further, we need a president that understands that climate and labor justice are the same fight. We must build on the wins of the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure bill and champion an agenda that centers union jobs, a pathway to citizenship, green affordable housing, expansive and reliable public transit, and an end to fossil fuel handouts. An agenda that leaves the oil and gas in the ground but leaves no worker or human behind. When the Biden-Harris administration halted approvals for construction of all new LNG export terminals in January of this year, the official statement stated, quote, "We will heed the calls of young people and frontline communities who are using their voices to demand actions from those with the power to act." Gen Z is determined to make sure Trump is nowhere near the White House ever again. At the same time, Gen Z for Change must honor where this generation is at. Heeding the calls of young people means calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and using the leverage at our disposal to achieve one, including a weapons embargo. With that and a working class agenda, we will see record turnout from Gen Z in November. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next up is a comrade and friend of mine from Hawaii, Kaniela Ng. Kaniela.
Mahalo, Maurice. Velina mai kako, Kaniela ko inoa. Hi, I'm Kaniela Ng. I'm a Kanaka Maoli. I'm also mixed race. Shout out. I'm a former elected official and national director of the Green New Deal Network. And I'm all in for Kamala Harris because the communities that I hold dear need her as our next president. It's that simple. I'm from a working poor community. As a kid, it would rain sugarcane ash on us during recess. It smelled like melting plastic, toxic. My friends and I would wheeze with asthmatic symptoms. And years later, land speculators forced us out of our home. And a year ago, climate disasters devastated my home island with our nation's deadliest wildfire, and we're still recovering. So Kamala Harris, more than any national politician I've seen, really understands my life. She knows that big oil, the fossil burning industry, can only continue when communities like mine are sacrificed. If government protected our health and safety, polluters would be dust. They have gone the way of Blockbuster stores, obsolete years ago. We'd have homes, solar, energy freedom. My kids, ages 5 and 8, would be able to breathe freely, drink clean water, have time to learn their native language, songs, and dance. They'd be able to stay on their ancestral land through their adulthood. Donald Trump, on the other hand, and his weird friends, they don't represent me. They can't, because they're just another generation of the far-right oligarchs that caused the trauma experienced by my mother, my grandmother, and my foremothers before her. Just look at Project 2025. It could just as well be called Project 1898, because they're peddling the same dangerous extreme policies of the original far-right oligarchs in Hawaii that robbed us of our freedoms and safety, all to benefit an elite few. 7 generations ago, women could vote in the Hawaiian Kingdom, decades before the West. Queen Liliuokalani, Queen, was our head of state. Trans people, Mahu, were spiritual leaders, and we opened our shorelines to immigrants to help us outnumber the elites. But then people like Donald Trump told us that our way wasn't right. They scapegoated the weakest among us, pitted us against each other, and that cost us our power, wealth, and land. This election is a chance to reverse that harm here and across the nation in this beautiful world. For the U.S. to catch up to our islands in this regard. So I'm honored to be helping Elect Kamala Harris as our first Madam President. Lastly, my non-political friends and family keep reminding me that they expect more than an anti-Trump agenda to turn out. They need a plan to actually improve their lives, one that inspires our people to turn out big, propel Kamala Harris to victory, and build a durable future for the rest of us. We're calling it Project 2025, or Progress 2025, a unity agenda for the next president. And we'll be coming out soon. So I invite each of you to reach out to join us to help drive turnout for the hard to reach communities. Thousands of people and organizations are signing up, and we need you standing right there with us. But first, donate and volunteer to Kamala. This is a historical lesson for all of us. So much joy, love, and power to be gained in the process. 2022, Green New Deal Network worked with so many of you to pass the Inflation Reduction Act. 2023, we passed 13 state and local bills. And 2024, we're electing Kamala Harris as President of the United States. Malama Fono.
Haniela, thank you so much. And Elise, thank you so much. And quickly, I just want to recognize a team of about a dozen volunteers that pulled this massive call together. So thank you, Maria, Aaron, Joe, Alex, Charlie, Evan, Ruha, Patrick, Lake, Eliza, Will, Stefan, Bill, and anybody else who was involved behind the scenes. Thank you so much for all of your organizing, all your work. Next up is Congresswoman from the great state of Vermont, Becca Balint. Becca.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm Congresswoman Becca Balint. I'm the first woman and first queer person to represent Vermont in Congress. Tonight on this call, I am a scrappy little dyke, and I'm so excited to be with you all tonight to do this hard but very joyous work. It's really an honor to share the stage with so many progressive leaders and champions, and all the folks who have come before me tonight have touched on all the important policies we need to move when Kamala Harris becomes president. You know what I'm talking about, and I know you care about these things because you're the diehards. You are still on this call after 2 hours, so shout out to all of you who are here organizing. Thank you for being engaged. Thank you for showing up. I ran for office because I believe leaders should be focused on alleviating suffering and fighting for the people on the margins. This view was informed by all the years I spent as a public school teacher teaching middle schoolers in rural Vermont. I learned so much from my students and their families, and I know that that work made me a better public servant. Kids and working families must be at the center of our policy discussions and decisions. That's why I'm supporting Vice President Harris. I know she understands this. I'm also a proud supporter of Kamala Harris because she's been there for my community. Project 2025 is coming for queer and trans people across this country. I know that Harris will be there to push back against the hatred. She'll stand up for those of us who are having our rights, stripped away from us by Trump and his apologists. They're trying to drag us back to the 1950s. If you are queer or trans or non-binary on this call, or if you love somebody in our community, please, please don't sit this election out. Organize for Vice President Harris and protect our rights, because we can do this, but we need all of us together. The other thing I wanted to say tonight is this moment is full of so much possibility and promise. Don't believe the cynical voices that say that we can't elect a woman president. Of course we can. We're the change makers. We make the change by digging deep and stretching ourselves. We do it by building strong, broad coalitions. And we don't need perfection in this work, but we do need curiosity and a generosity of spirit and a vision for what America can be. And we have to be fully engaged in the process, even when it feels hard. This election, we have to do more than we think we're capable of. We have to believe in what is possible and then do the work to manifest it. History doesn't just happen, we make it happen. So Vice President Harris needs your energy and your courage and your fight, and she needs the gifts that you alone possess in order to do this historic work together. So I'm so proud to be right here by your side in the fight. And as Vice President Harris has reminded us time and time again, when we fight, we win. Progressives, let's go.
All right, I'm pumped. When we fight, we win. Next up, we have Jose Vasquez. Jose is the Executive Director of Common Defense. Jose.
Thank you, Maurice. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there with us tonight. My name is Jose Vasquez. I'm a proud U.S. Army veteran and the Executive Director of Common Defense, as Maurice mentioned. And it's an honor to speak with you all tonight on behalf of veterans and military families. Common Defense is the nation's largest grassroots organization of progressive veterans. We were founded to unite veterans and military families against the threats posed by Donald Trump and his administration. We've mobilized thousands of veterans to take a stand against his divisive and dangerous agenda. If you're a veteran or know someone who is, visit vetsforharris.org to get involved. And you should also donate to the campaign. As veterans, we have a unique perspective on leadership, service, and sacrifice. We've seen firsthand the cost of failed policies both at home and abroad. The Trump administration's attempts to underfund and privatize the VA and utter disregard for our service are stark reminders of why we need change. The promises made to us were broken, and the support we deserved was withheld. As veterans, we have seen what makes a good commander-in-chief, and Trump is the furthest thing from it. He is unfit to serve another term, and his extremist agenda goes against everything we swore an oath to protect. But tonight, we're not here just to critique the past. We're here to fight for a better future. Kamala Harris represents that future. Her commitment to veterans is unwavering. She understands that honoring our service means more than words. It means action. Under a Harris administration, we can expect a VA that is fully funded and staffed, fully capable of providing the care and services veterans need and deserve. Her policies will ensure that no veteran is left behind, that mental health care is prioritized, and that job training and educational opportunities are expanded. Beyond veterans issues, Kamala Harris embodies the progressive values we all hold dear. She fights for a fair economy, quality health care for all, and a society where every American, regardless of background, has a chance to succeed. Her vision is inclusive. Her policies are forward-thinking, and her leadership is exactly what our country needs. This election will be close, y'all, and every vote counts. It is up to us to mobilize, to inspire, and to ensure that every voice is heard. Let us remember, the stakes are high, but our resolve is even stronger. Together, we can turn the page on the failures of the past and write a new chapter for our nation, one where veterans are honored, justice is served, and the American dream is within reach for all. Once again, if you're a veteran or know a veteran, visit vetsforharris.org to get involved. That's vets, F-O-R, harris.org to get involved. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your service. And thank you for standing with Kamala Harris. Now let's go out there and make history. Thanks, y'all.
That's right, Jose. Let's make history. Next up, we have Minnesota Attorney General, my brother, Keith Ellison. Attorney General Ellison, you there? Okay, well, we're going to work on Attorney General Ellison, but in the meantime, a very close friend, a grassroots leader, organizer, true working families representative, New York City's own, the New York City Comptroller, my friend, and WFP elected official, Brad Lander.
Thanks so much, Maurice. It was great to see you in Queens for the New York State Working Families Party Convention 2 weeks ago on Saturday. What a difference 2 weeks can make, huh? I'm Brad Lander, the New York City Comptroller. So delighted to be here. So what do our cities, counties, and towns need, and how does this election affect it? That's not just a question for places like New York City or Chicago, even though it was great to hear from Mayor Brandon Johnson. That's about our smaller cities, our counties, our towns in blue, red, purple states. All of our municipalities are at stake in this election. First, let's remember what we've seen over the past 8 years on the basic infrastructure that every one of our cities and towns needs: roads, bridges, public transit. Trump talked about it like every week, so much it became a joke, but never got it done. The Biden-Harris administration delivered on building out the solar, wind, EV, and climate resilience that will not only save our planet, but protect our communities, save families' energy bills, create good jobs. Trump mocked it. Biden-Harris administration got it done. What would the future bring down one path, the dark scenario of Project 2025? For our towns and cities, that means ending Medicaid and Medicare, denying seniors in our community healthcare, slashing Head Start and funding for our public schools, weakening unions and the power of workers, even denying them water breaks. And it means truly fascist immigration policies that would deport our neighbors, including dreamers and young people. Our cities, counties, and towns say no way. Instead, by electing Kamala Harris, the 47th president of the United States, we could win tenant protections and support for affordable housing and resources to address homelessness, funding for the child care and K-12 education and public higher ed and elder care with the people who provide it paid decent wages like our friend Adi Barkan would expect. We can win support for the kinds of programs that help communities confront substance abuse disorders and mental health crisis and gun violence. And we can win the continued resources for infrastructure and climate transition that will help our communities survive and thrive in the coming decades. We often say that our democracy is at stake in this election, and it is. It's worth remembering that our cities, our counties, our towns are at stake as well. But luckily, it's in exactly those places where we build the relationships that we need to organize to make Kamala Harris the 47th president, to hold the Senate, to win the House, and to deliver the future that all our families in all our communities deserve. Let's get to it. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, Brad. And next up, we have a aggressive progressive who is fighting in the South, who is proving that aggressive progressives can run and win and struggle everywhere. I'm talking about no other than my brother, State Rep from Tennessee, Justin Jones.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Jones, and I serve as the youngest Black representative in the state of Tennessee. Today in Tennessee, our students went back to schools, and we are seeing the real-life effects of book bans, where locks were put on school libraries because librarians did not have enough time this summer to take books off the bookshelves that my Republican colleagues want banned. This is Project 2025. Project 2025 is Tennessee 2024. And one of the reason I'm supporting Vice President Harris is that last year when we were expelled following a mass shooting that took the lives of 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults, as we called for my Republican colleagues to ban assault weapons, and instead they chose to assault democracy by expelling us. The very next day, within 24 hours, VP Harris took an emergency trip to Nashville to stand in solidarity and to send a message to my Republican colleagues in the legislature that their authoritarianism would not happen without resistance, that we would not bow down, and that we would push back and fight for the vision of multiracial democracy that all of us deserve. And so I'm here to say that a lot of times when we look at the progressive movement, too often we forget the South. And Southern segregationists would say that the South would rise again, but I keep lifting this message across the nation. I think it's something that the Vice President represents in her acts of solidarity, in her acts of showing up, lifting up a new generation of voices, that the South will rise anew, that a South rooted in multiracial democracy, rooted in multi-generational democracy, rooted in challenging white supremacy and authoritarianism and plantation politics can rise anew here in a state that is the birthplace of the Klan, but it's also the birthplace of the Nashville student movement. When the Vice President came here, she spoke at Fisk University in the same chapel where Dr. King and Desmond Tutu spoke, lifting up our fight for democracy. And she sent a clear message that changed the trajectory of our battle here in a state where so often we were told that we were isolated and alone and that the Republican supermajority could never be broken. And her presence of solidarity sent a message to everyone in my district, the most diverse district, that if we fight together, we can win together. And when we rise up, we can bring down not only monuments of white supremacy, as we did with some Confederate monuments, but the legacies of those very monuments through policies of voter suppression in a state where 1 in 5 Black men cannot vote, in a state where we've refused Medicaid expansion, in a state where we have banned books but haven't banned the assault weapons terrorizing our kids. Really what's at stake, and really the most important thing that I'm seeing right now, is that we need a president, someone in the White House who will lift up a new generation and who will lift up a long-term vision, not just what we're fighting against, but what is the long-term vision of what we're fighting for when we look at the crises of our democracy, when we look at the crises in our climate, and we look at the crises in our economy. And so we know that Vice President Kamala Harris will be in solidarity with our fight and will not neglect the South. And that's why I'm here to say that I'm giving my full support, because I know that as a progressive movement, I believe in our movement, and that's really where our hope is coming from, is that we have built a movement strong enough to push these forces of authoritarianism, to say that we are not going back, but we're moving forward, and that we refuse to go backwards in history. And so power to all those who are on this call. It's been amazing listening. That's the only thing that would keep us up this late, is to be together, building this movement, building this beloved community. And so power to the people, power to you all, and look forward to a November where we send a clear message to fascism that we will not go backwards, but we're moving forward together, not one step back. Peace, y'all.
Peace and power to the people. That is democracy. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brother Jones. Next up, we have Santiago Meyer, who is the Executive Director of Voters of Tomorrow. Santiago.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Santiago Meyer, and I am the Executive Director of Voters Tomorrow, and we are the largest Gen Z-led voter registration organization in the country. And I could not be more excited to be hanging out with thousands of incredible progressives here with such phenomenal speakers, because we're here to do the work. We're here to get into the streets, to go knock on doors, to go make phone calls, and to elect Vice President Kamala Harris. I originally met Vice President Harris in 2019 when I was a high school student who was really excited to go to a rally at first. And as she was walking out, she stopped by and I asked her a question. Her staff was trying to get her to move along. People were trying to take pictures, but she stopped and spent almost 10 minutes just talking to me about how she could represent our generation, how she could make sure that the policies that Gen Z supported were brought into action. And she was just senator at this point. And she has continued this effort as vice president. She went and spoke to thousands and thousands of young people all over the country through her Fight for Freedom tour. She made sure to bring young people into the White House as vice president and listen to their concerns and voice those concerns into the administration. You know, I'm an immigrant, and as an immigrant, seeing the daughter of immigrants be a progressive champion, a fighter for young people, a vice president that's really committed to earning our vote, and potentially the next president is incredibly exciting. We have spent at Voters of Tomorrow months researching everything that we are doing to make sure that young people are represented, that we are making sure that our policy is represented in the White House. And everything has been compiled in what we call the Gen Z agenda.
My apologies, Santiago. We're having a little bit of trouble with your audio. So we're going to try to come back to you and see if maybe it's something on our end or your end. And in the meantime, we're going to bring in Representative Barbara Lee. Sorry about that, Santiago. There's some audio issues, but we'll try to get right back to you. But in the meantime, we're going to move to Representative Barbara Lee.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, well, listen, thank you all very much for inviting me to be with you for just a minute. And I want to just say how important it is to have this discussion and how important it is that progressives early on support Vice President Kamala Harris as our next president. You all know what the issues are, but you also know why having a voice and a seat at the table is extremely important. And I'm so proud to be part of the Progressive Caucus, former co-chair of the Progressive Caucus in Congress. And it's important for you all to understand and realize it and communicate to you that so much of what has taken place in terms of this administration, progressives were key in making sure that provisions, for example, in the Inflation Reduction Act, in the CHIPS Act, in what was Build Back Better, in our COVID response, all of these issues, the child tax credit, issues around, and I work a lot around reproductive freedom and around poverty reduction and elimination. All of these issues were central and are central to a progressive agenda. And under the leadership of a great woman, Pramila Jayapal, our chair of the Progressive Caucus, we were able to not accomplish everything we tried to accomplish, but we accomplished a lot. And it was because of you, and it was because of the outside push, and it was because progressives held the line, and progressives supported what we were doing, and we heard from you on what we needed to do. And so I'm going to just ask you and mention once again that we have to have a seat at the table, and we have to be there and make sure that, of course, we protect our democracy and not allow this convicted felon, who we know oh so well, to be elected again to the White House. But we also have to do the work to make sure that doesn't happen. And we have to be ready. be ready the day after the election to have our agenda and progressives have a seat at the table on every single issue that we know is going to make life better for working men and women, life better for the BIPOC community, for senior citizens, for the LGBTQ plus community, and fight for peace and justice and equity and equality and climate, address the climate. Confident that with the progressive voices and progressive agenda, that President Kamala Harris will hear us, will see us, and will move forward and make this a better place and make this a better world. So thank you all again so much. And thank you for your work and your voice over the years, and look forward to our continuing work together.
Thank you so much, Representative Lee, a true fighter for working people, a true conscience of the Congress, a true progressive leader, and a true progressive icon. Thank you for all the work that you do. Now I gotta bring, like, there's been nothing but heavy hitters all night, and I'm bringing on a bad man, a fighter for working people everywhere. He made history when he became president of his union last year. Somebody I call a brother in arms, somebody who I have the privilege of knowing and calling a comrade, somebody who is transforming the labor movement around this country. I'm talking about none other than CWA's president, Claude Cummings Jr.
Thank you so much. Fights. Listen, I don't want to repeat what a lot of you have said, but we all know that the vision we all share for a more just and equal United States is shared by a majority of our fellow citizens. But the forces standing in the way of the progress will do everything in their power to stop that progress. That's why the work we all do to organize progressives to win elections and then hold elected officials accountable is so important. Together, we've made tremendous strides in advancing that vision over the last 3.5 years by advancing an aggressive inside-outside movement on our priorities. Leaders like all of you outside the Congress have worked hand in hand in glove with Senator Sanders, CBC Chair Jayapal, and so many others inside the halls of Congress. It's been needed and progress on many key policies that will improve millions of Americans' lives. And we all know that there is so much more to do. Make no mistake, if we do not elect Kamala Harris, President of the United States, there will be no progress on any of the issues we care about. No progress at all. If we're going to be successful in building and expanding on the progress on key progressive policies on worker rights, the economy, healthcare, reversing the climate crisis, and achieving racial justice, we have to make sure that we have Kamala Harris in the White House. In just the last 13 plus months that I've been president of CWA, I've been impressed with Kamala Harris's engagement with real workers. Over and over and over again, Kamala Harris has sought the input of CWA members and other working people in order to better understand the issues so her policy recommendations truly meet our concerns. Do you think for 1 minute Donald Trump does that? Hell no, he doesn't. The only working people around him that he wines when he wines and dines Elon Musk and other CEOs at Mar-a-Lago are the ones keeping the place running who he's probably refusing to pay. A couple of years ago, Vice President Harris visited a CWA-represented electric bus manufacturing facility in Minnesota. She had a press conference there, but it wasn't some photo op. Our members took her on a tour of the shop floor, and they were extremely impressed with the questions she asked and the attention she paid to the answers. And by the way, Vice President Harris was the co-chair of the White House Task Force on Worker Empowerment. She helped develop literally dozens of policies, literally dozens, some of them big, some of them small, that the administration could do to empower workers without needing new legislation. And how did she develop those? where she met numerous times with CWA members and leaders to hear our concerns. And I know that she did the same with countless other unions. That is who Kamala Harris is. She trusts working people and truly values our opinions. And that's why I and our union, the CWA family, stand with all of you to get Kamala Harris elected President of the United States. Then we will stand with each of you again to make sure she hears from all of us and the majority of Americans who support our vision. We at CWA stand ready to continue fighting for that more just and equitable country that we all dream of and fight for. And Maurice, if I was there in person with all of you, I would ask you to repeat this, what I'm getting ready to say now. But I'm asking all of you to get up every morning and say this. We will protect our democracy. We will protect our unions. We will protect working people. And we will protect future generations. Thank you again so much for having me. Now let's go out and get this done.
All right, I'm fired up. I don't know about y'all, but I am fired up. We will protect democracy and we will protect future generations. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, President Cummings. Next, we got Santiago Meyer. I think we worked on the issues on the audio, so come back, Santiago, and let us hear what's bringing you to this fight.
Wonderful. Thank you. And yes, I am back. And I want to reemphasize the previous argument before I was cut off. But Kamala Harris at her core cares about young people. And I think that is the most important thing. At Versus Tomorrow, we have spent months, we have spent years, really, doing research to understand what Gen Z believes in. And we have compiled all of this into the Gen Z Agenda, a collection of data-backed policies supported by Generation Z. And what we know and why we're so excited about Vice President Harris is that her bold progressive vision matches so much of our progressive Gen Z agenda. She's trying to build an economy that works for everyone, not just the rich. She's trying to confront the climate crisis. She's trying to put second graders above the Second Amendment. She's trying to protect abortion rights, and she's fighting day in and day out for everything that Gen Z stands for. The other guy, Donald Trump, continues to declare war on our generation. He supports banning books. He supports banning abortion. He supports banning our fundamental freedoms to exist as young Americans. And we will not allow this to happen. As other people have said, as other progressive champions have said, this is going to be a close election, and we all need to get to work. We all need to be involved in this campaign. We all need to be proud progressives, but also proud fighters for democracy, because that's really what's at stake. Democracy and freedom. And the contrast between these two candidates could not be any clearer. So for any young people watching, and there's thousands of people here, so I'm going to assume a lot of them are young, let me invite you to join Voters of Tomorrow. Let me invite you to join the Students for Harris movement. We have so many young people, so many young progressive people who are committed to fighting to elect Vice President Harris. And we need all of you. So go to votersoftomorrow.org, join us. Let's keep fighting for democracy. Let's keep fighting for a future that works for our generation. And let's get the first woman president.
Thank you so much, Santiago. And look, like I said, we have nothing but hitters, nothing but heavy hitters from beginning to end, nothing but workers and fighters and organizers for democracy and working people, which is why I'm so honored to bring the president of the United Farm Workers, Teresa Romero.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Good evening to everybody. I'm happy to be here today. I'm happy to see many familiar faces. As Maurice says, I'm Teresa Romero, and I am the president of the United Farm Workers. In the UFW, we like to say, there may come days you need a lawyer. There will be days when you need a doctor, but you need a farm worker every day. During COVID, farm workers were called essential, but too often they're treated as if they were disposable. But farm workers are not victims. Farm workers are proud workers who know the truth that people in this country wouldn't have food on our tables if it wasn't for us. We may not run America, but we make America run. So this election, when you hear or see things about how farm owners support Trump or how rural areas support Trump, just remember that farm workers are with Vice President Kamala Harris. All the previous speakers have said a lot about what is at stake in our country if Donald Trump wins. But I want to make it clear, this isn't just about stopping one dangerous man. This is about the chance to vote for real progress. The UFW and Vice President Harris go back. She has been a champion for farm workers as California's Attorney General, as U.S. Senator, and as Vice President. She has brought farm workers in with her wherever she goes, literally and metaphorically. We trust her. We know her. She fights for working people and she listens. The Biden-Harris administration has been the most pro-worker administration in modern years. Vice President Harris has been a key part of ensuring that when they say pro-worker, they mean all workers. Let me give you an example. Did you know the Biden-Harris administration extended deferred action to immigrant workers involved in labor disputes? This means workers who have a labor dispute or whose employers have violated their rights can't just be threatened with deportation. This has allowed UFW to help hundreds of farm workers involved in labor disputes, ensuring not only protection from deportation, but also work permits. We will almost certainly lose this program, and immigrants will be exposed to deportation if Kamala doesn't win in November. I have met so many of these immigrants workers who have benefited from this program. So remember, you can't be pro-worker if it does not include immigrant workers. And let me tell you something else. The bosses, all these farm owners who donate lots of money to anti-immigrant Republicans like Donald Trump, they know a majority of farm workers in this country are undocumented. That is precisely what they want the workers to be. They want the workers to be scared, because a worker that is scared of being deported is a worker that is not going to, it's going to be scared to ask for a raise or to take action when they get injured at the job. Let me give you one more example of how Kamala Harris has fought for farm workers. Wherever you're in the country, it's probably been very, very hot. In fact, last week was the hottest week in on record ever. Farm workers farm workers are in the front lines of climate change, just like they were on the front lines of COVID, because unlike this call, you cannot pick tomato via Zoom. For over 2 decades, the UFW has been fighting to make sure that every farm worker in the fields during these late deadly temperatures has access to clean water, adequate shade, and paid rest breaks. This is not a luxury. This is what everybody that is doing physically demanding work in extreme temperatures need to survive. And sure enough, every year we have seen farm workers killed or injured. That's why the Biden administration has stepped up and listened to farm workers and proposed the first ever federal heat safety standard, making life-saving access to water, rest, and shade right for every worker working under extreme heat. To be clear, this is something we've long been fighting for, and for some reason, no other president, Democrat or Republican, has done it. We understand that the heat rule is going to be finally in effect by the end of this year, and it will be so tragic if right when it begins, Donald Trump comes back into the Oval Office and reverses it in day one, which unfortunately will undo all the progress put in the work the farm workers have put to serve their own lives. However, with President Harris, we will have a chance to continue to build on the strong worker foundation that the Biden administration has created. Together with President Harris, we can build an economy that works for the workers who make it possible. Imagine an America where farm workers can afford the fruits their own hands harvest. A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote to make that happen. Thank you, and si se puede.
Thank you, si se puede, and peace and props and power to all the workers, farm workers, like the workers you organize every single day, domestic workers, like my grandmother, frontline workers, workers everywhere. And like I said, we have hitters all throughout this call, and we're finishing strong. You don't believe me? Let me tell you who's coming up next. Coming up next is a sister of mine, somebody who is a fighter for working people. She built and continues to build an amazing multiracial community labor coalition that she brought all the way into Congress. She's a fighter, the first Black woman to represent the city of Pittsburgh and the surrounding area in Congress. I'm talking about no other than my sister, Representative Summer Lee.
Brother Mo, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Shout out to everybody who's still here. Listen, I heard that this call started a couple hours ago, and I'm not gonna hold you. Brother Mo knows this. I was on my couch. I had my night clothes on and I was watching the Olympics. And I texted this brother and I was like, you know what? I heard y'all a little bit behind. I'm gonna let y'all catch up by leaving me behind. And I'm gonna just go to sleep. And I was sitting there and it occurred to me that with everything that we have at stake, I can't afford to be on the sidelines. And I can't afford to stay asleep. We gotta be woke right now, and we can't be on the sidelines. And the reality is that that's true of progressives. That's true of Black and brown folks. That's true of everybody who lives at every margin. That right now, from every corner of this country that we're coming from, we are called right now to shape our country, and not just our country. We're called to shape our world right now. So I felt like I just had to get up, because no matter how we got here to this call, no matter how we got here to this point in our politics. And I know that most people here got here through fighting. Most people here on a progressive call, we got here by laying it on the line. We got here through community activism. We got here being told that our progressivism was maybe too loud, or that maybe our opinions were a little bit too much for the moment, right? A lot of us came here because our lives depended on it. We might have came from the movement for Black lives, or we might come fighting right now for a free Palestine. We have all come here in many different roads. But the reality is that right now, all roads are leading to the same way. Are we going to shape our society right now, or are we going to let folks shape it for us? And I'm here because I'm calling everybody, every progressive, every marginalized person, everybody who cares about your neighbor, to come out and help us to shape our country. The days are gone that we can leave it and leave our fate to other people. Let's keep it real. We know precisely what we're going to get. I know where I was a few years ago, an organizer in 2016 on election night in Pennsylvania, the great swing state where all eyes are right now. And I remember working 100 hours a week. It wasn't because I loved any candidate or anyone, but I loved my community. I loved the Black folks in my community who had never seen representation, looking at the prospect of losing what little they had. I loved the communities that I had not met yet, who were looking at a Donald Trump who told us exactly who he was and exactly what he meant to do. We had a mandate to stand up and fight. And I remember how it felt on that day to lose that fight. And I know how it's been for the last 4 years, 8 years. I know that there's still so much that we have to rewind. I won't leave this place without doing everything in my power to protect our communities. So I want to say something, progressives. What's different now than it was then? Us. We are different. We are more powerful. We have shaped the agenda of this country, come hell or high water. No matter what people have said about progressives, we've stood up. And that's why we have an Inflation Reduction Act. That's why we have an Infrastructure Act. That's why we are moving on climate justice. That's why we will free Palestine. That's why Black lives will continue to matter. That's why, because you all have shown up. So right now, whatever we feel, don't let anybody tell us that this isn't where we belong. We belong in this fight. We deserve to protect our communities from Donald Trump, from Project 2025, from Republicans, from the Supreme Court, from everybody. We deserve to leave our families in a better position than we were before now. So I got up off the couch and I woke up because I won't let my community stay or go back into a position that was worse than when I got here. I'm so grateful for everybody who's in Congress right now who left the Congress better than when I got here. I want to leave it better for the next generation when they get here. And that's what I'm fighting for, this next generation. So thank you for staying up all night with us. We got a lot of work to do. I don't care what road led you here. I just want to encourage you to remember who we're fighting for. We're not fighting for anybody whose name is on a ticket, not even mine. We are fighting for our most vulnerable neighbor, our most vulnerable sibling, wherever they are in this world. We are fighting for them. Take them into every ballot box, onto every door, into every phone call, every time you donate. Remember the person who you are fighting for. And that might look different for all of us, but I'm here to say I'm here to fight for us. So that's my time. I am going to go to sleep now, but I'm just here to say thank you all, progressives, for never sitting down, no matter how much they try to beat us up, no matter how often they punch left. Continue to be the moral compass of this country. It needs us. This moment calls us. So let's go out there and get it, and let's show the world why progressives are called for a time such as this. This is our moment, and we will make sure that this country is better off, as we always have.
My sister, you earned that sleep. Aren't you all happy that she decided to get off that couch and come back and bless us? Did I lie when I said we have heavy hitters and fighters all the way through and that we will finish strong? I'm here to remind you that this is an organizing call. And if anything you heard, if anything that Summer said to you, spoke to you, I'm speaking to somebody right now. Please find the link, go to the website, sign up for a volunteer shift. I now have the honor to introduce you to a progressive who is an artist, who is behind media, who is weaving stories, telling stories that help humanize the working people that we fight for and with the democracy that we're creating every single day. I bring to you Justin Hillian, who is the co-showrunner and executive producer of The Chi.
Thank you, Maurice. And I mean, I don't know how I'm going to follow Sister Summer, but I'll just say that I'm a writer, so I love stories, and it would be a pretty amazing story. So the first female vice president of the United States gets elected. 2 years into her term, she's forced to watch the Supreme Court overturn Roe v. Wade. And then 2 years later, that same woman becomes the first female president of the United States. And she gets to lead the charge to give women the right to make choices about their own bodies. Now, I'm by no means an expert, but that's the beautiful thing about the choice we have before us. It does not take an expert to see the clear differences between Vice President Harris and Donald Trump. So we on the left, we are a broad coalition with many different passions: the climate crisis, immigration, infrastructure. And I just urge us all to come together and unite. All of our futures will be brighter with the President Harris. So to echo everyone who's gone before me, this is our chance. This is our chance to gain control over the House and the Senate. And the best way to do that is to donate and volunteer. So please sign up with organizations like Move On and others that are on this call so that we can make sure we deliver votes to elect Kamala Harris. And so please go to progressivesforharris.com so that we can all exhale a sigh of relief on November 5th, even though that's when the true work is going to begin.
Thank you, Brother Justin. And you heard him. Go to progressivesforharris.com. Sign up for a volunteer shift. This is a volunteer and organizing call. Sign up for the shift. And quickly, number one, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our ASL interpreters. Thank you so much, Cassie and Cyrus, for holding us down. Everybody give them so much love. Thank you for everybody, the dozens of leaders, labor leaders, political leaders, grassroots leaders who came and spoke to us. And I just want to close on this note. And I want to thank each and every one of you. There's been close to 100,000 plus of you in our viewing audience. If just half of you sign up for a volunteer shift, that would be a volunteer boom. But we don't need just half. We actually need all of you, each and every one of you. I know there's some of you who have not signed up for a volunteer shift or have not donated. I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking directly to you. Click the link, go on the website, do it now. And as I said before, our time is now. Again, if you haven't, don't wait until the call is over. Don't wait until I finish speaking. Volunteer. And I want to explain why. When you're watching the 24-hour news, when you're caught up in scrolling online, and sometimes we doom scroll, right? Sometimes we get caught up, and it's so easy for the marketplace to try to lull us into being consumers, to being political consumers, right? Where we're kind of just consuming political news and information, but we're not emotion. Or they try to lull us into being spectators, right? We're either in the consumers in the political marketplace or just spectators in the arena of political sport, wearing a red jersey or a blue jersey and screaming and yelling for our team or yelling at the other team, but not necessarily getting in the arena. We don't choose either of those directions. We are neither consumers or spectators. We are political agents, each and every one of us, and certainly us collectively. We are organizers. We are leaders. And our work may be hard, but our work also is joyous, also is contagious, also is irresistible, also is powerful and leaderful. And that momentum that you feel, you're a part of that momentum. That momentum, whether or not it continues, if you see them talking about the news about, oh, how long will this momentum continue? You determine that with your organizing, with your volunteering, with the conversations you have with friends, family, neighbors. You, all of us, we are the momentum. We are the nation. We are the victory, only if, because there are no guarantees, if we organize. When they ask what you did to stop fascism, tell them you did everything within your power. Tell them it started today. And we've got 92 days left. Let's leave it all out in the field. Let's leave it all out in the field so that we could tell future generations we did everything in our power in a moment of clarity, in a moment of epic clarity between the right wing and all of our forces, we chose each other. That starts today. That goes straight through Election Day and beyond. Onward and good night. Let's get it. Peace.